everybody. Welcome to the Monday, January 22nd, 2018 council meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. And first of all, I'd like a motion to adopt the minutes of, barring any amendments from January 8th, please. Would someone like to bring that forward? Councillor Peak, Councillor Holmes, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, the next one's 2.2, approval of the public hearing report. That the public hearing report for 523 Stoner Street from January 8th to 18 be approved. Would someone like to bring Councillor Holmes? Councillor Peak, thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Carried and opposed. Okay, adoption of tonight's agenda. Officer, do you have any changes?
Yes, I do. There's two things to note. Item 11.3 in the agenda should actually be highlighted. It is available for comment from the public during the public comment opportunity, which is item 6. As well, there's an item brought forward from Committee of the Whole regarding 2018 grant and aid. That will be suggested as item 9.2 under unfinished business.
Okay, that's it. Councillor Holmes?
Wasn't there also an item to bring forward from closed?
Yes,
It's on the.
that's item 9.1.
Oh,
This
I'm
is sort of
sorry.
fill in the
My
blank.
apologies.
Okay, would someone like to bring that forward as amended, please? Councillor Peak, thank you. Councillor Boot, thank you very much. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay, no public hearings this evening,
No,
correct? No delegations?
there are no delegations.
No delegations. Oh. Okay. We have an opportunity now for public comment under item 6. Please keep your comments to 2 minutes, please. We have a maximum of 15 minutes available. And as our corporate officer just pointed out, 11.3 should have been highlighted, so that's also available for comment. And I guess, Jeremy, you're timing, are you?
I'll watch the time.
Okay, thank you. So I'd really appreciate anybody who's speaking this evening to be cognizant of the time, please. Last time we got quite late, and I unfortunately was too brusque and too quick with somebody at the end of the evening, and I'd actually apologize for that. But I don't. I want to hear what everybody has to say, or the council does. But we really have to keep to a schedule, so I'd appreciate it if everybody would keep to the 2 minutes. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, Mayor and Council. I'm here to address the reconsideration of the decision that was made on December 11th, I believe, on the non-ALR use within ALR. I guess everyone must have read my email. I didn't think it was going to be published, but that's. I just want to speak a bit on that. I really don't think I'm going to dissolve a property line. It's just kind of a sense of fairness, I think, that we should be looking at. The property adjacent to me or beside me, which was part of a big parcel, was since then subdivided off in 2 other parcels, actually becoming residential. So making me or recommending that I dissolve a property line, I just don't think it restricts my options for the other property on the adjacent property to the extent that I wouldn't be able to build there again too. So anyways, that's probably 2 minutes.
Thank you. That's great. Anybody else like to speak?
Yeah.
Yes, Ms. Stronkarts.
Dear Mayor, dear council members, dear staff. There are 33 additional signatures opposing the development. Bristol. In total, we have now 3,192 signatures as of January 21st. 3,192 opposing signatures. No less than 2,625 are from Summerland residents. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So anybody else like to speak, please? Okay. Appears as though that's it, till later perhaps. Okay, moving on to my mayor's report. This past Saturday, the Arena Banquet Room was overflowing with friends and family to commemorate the life of Klaus Kahl. Klaus came to Summerland in 1993 and bought Valley West Automotive from the Haverkamps. Through my long list of VWs, I had a great relationship with Klaus. 2 Beetles, a Rabbit, a Vanagon, a Turbo Golf, and a later succession of Subarus. The Subarus qualified for Klaus's attention as they were foreign vehicles. Klaus almost always had a loaner we could borrow. Since all our vehicles were purchased in various states of newness, they received Klaus's and his mechanics' devoted attention. Klaus received several calls from me, one from the Coke, another one from the Hope Princeton, and once just outside of Whistler to the tune of, "Klaus, what do I do now? Do you think I'll be able to limp to your shop?" I only knew Klaus through my frequent vehicle visits, but many of his friends and family and many close community friends attested to his love of family and his 2 boys and to his love of speed in cars or motorcycles, hence Bridget Haverkamp's name for him as Klaus Kahl. Klaus's kindness and generosity touched a great many people in the community. He was straightforward, accurate, and honest in business and personally. In the last decade or so, he suffered from Parkinson's, but carried on at full speed. It finally proved too much. I will miss his friendly face. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, just a couple of things to update you on. You'll see in the correspondence section a letter from UBCM indicating our successful grant application for $15,000 through the 2018 Asset Management Planning Program. That $15,000 was $15,000. We have a current project going on right now, and that $15,000 we were taking out of the budget to use our portion. So this grant will allow the $15,000 to be used for something else in the budget. So we were really pleased to see that come through. There's been quite a bit of concern voiced in the community recently about the upcoming switch to collection carts. And I just wanted to mention that, well, number one, that we are getting the concerns brought to us, and that we're just in the midst of working on sort of a question and answer sheet to putting an education campaign together. We'll be having sample carts in the office so that people can actually see what they're going to be like, and we just want to be able to work one-on-one with the people that have the longer driveways that may not be as mobile, and just to see what we can do to help make that switch. We have talked to other rural communities who, after making the switch, it appears that the individuals using these carts are generally satisfied, but we realize there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So that switch is supposed to be happening sometime in July. So there is some work to do beforehand. And then lastly, the beverage containers recycling bins that we talked about before that we had given to us by NCORP have arrived. There's 30 indoor bins and 15 outdoor bins. And in the coming weeks, they'll be placed throughout the community, and hopefully will improve or increase the recycling program. And that's about it for today.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to unfinished business, 9.1 and 9.2.
Yes, so 9.1 is simply bringing forward from a closed session resolution from January 8th. It's that Hannah Walton be appointed to the Cultural Development Committee.
Okay. Need a motion? Pardon me?
No,
Okay. And the next one? Madam Clerk?
Next one is the grant and aid recommendation from Committee of the Whole.
Council has a report on your table that's basically the recommendation that you came out, that from the deliberations this morning at Committee of the Whole for the $45,000 in grant and aid allocation for 2018. If you have questions, our Director of Finance is here.
Any questions, Council? Councillor Peak.
Not really a question, but I just want to acknowledge there's a lot of discussion on this, and it's not always easy to winnow away at the dollars that are requested, but we certainly feel that we are in partnership with the community, and I think that this is a pretty good report bringing forward how we can support the community in various ways.
Thank you. Yes, Council spent quite a bit of time this morning going over these one by one to discuss each one thoroughly, so I think that went well. So would someone like to bring that forward, please? Councillor Barclay. Seconder, please. Councillor Trainer. All in favor? Thank you. Carried, none opposed. Okay, we're into, what's 9.2 coming up? Or we did both?
That was 9.2.
That was 9.2. Okay, good. Okay, so we're moving on to correspondence. Other than what the CAO just brought up, Council, do you have anything that you would like to bring forward from the correspondence listed? Okay. Someone like to bring that resolution forward? Councillor Booth?
As written, please.
Okay, thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Peak, thank you. All in favor? Carried. Okay, 10.2, committee and commission minutes. We have the Parks and Rec Commission minutes. Any comment on those? Councillor Peak?
I will bring it forward as
Okay, thank
read.
you. Seconder, please. Councillor Trainer, thank you. Any further discussion at all? No? All in favor? Carried, none opposed, thank you very much. Development Services Reports, 11.1. Mr. Strachan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a rezoning application for 5418 Nixon Road. This particular application, council saw in the fall, however, granted the OCP amendment, however, defeated the zoning application. The rezoning has come back with some modifications to the site plan. They've reduced the number of lots adjacent to Nixon Road. And this did a couple of things on the application. These lots are now 17.7 meters wide, so they're 30 centimeters short of being RSD2 size, but they are of an RSD2 area. So that's those 4 lots on this side. The 4 lots that are on fronting onto Wharf Street are all over the RSD2 minimum lot width. They're all over 18 meters. So now the site plan includes lots on all frontages being over the 18 meters, or close to, excuse me, for these 4 lots, and over for these 5 lots, the minimum 18 meters of the RSD2. In order to achieve that, they reduced the number of lots on the Nixon frontage by 1. The lot at the very north end is still an RSD1 size lot. It's smaller, and that is to allow for the walkway to not have a jog in it, so that the walkway can come straight through and not have a jog. As you see, the other lots that are further down have a jog in the boundary because these lots are a bit bigger than the lots on the inside. So the application is to rezone the entire property to RSD1 with 21 lots instead of the original application, which included 22. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Strachan. Questions of the planner? Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. I just have a few questions, if that's okay. One, the previous application had a covenants to, for trees to be planted. Does that remain? Or is that no longer there?
The applicant didn't bring it forward as part of their application, and council could again request it if they wished.
Okay. And if some of those, if those larger lots are RSD2 sized, but it's all the zoning will all be RSD1, why can't it be a mixed RSD1 and RSD2 zoning?
The lots on the frontage of Nixon, these 4 lots that are larger, are 30 centimeters short of the minimum lot width. Because the dimension on this side of the property, if they were to bring them that extra 30 centimeters wider, they would lose one more lot on this side.
Okay.
So in order to meet the RSD2 criteria for subdivision, they are the right size and the right depth, but not the right width. They're 30 centimeters short of the minimum width in that zoning district. But they meet the area criteria as well as the depth, area being 650, these ones are 655, and the depth being 30 meters, and these ones are 34 meters. But they can't meet that 17-meter frontage as the maximum frontage they can get on Nixon before losing an additional lot.
Right, okay. Yeah, I don't think we need to be picky about 30 centimeters, but, so I guess what follows from that is how do we assure that the subdivision plan is followed, that they don't change their plans after we rezone it?
The approving officer at subdivision would follow what was presented to at the public hearing and what was presented to council as their subdivision plan.
So we're good with it?
Yeah.
That's good then. We're
Any
good
other
with-
questions of the planner? Councillor Barco?
So really, the only difference...
Can you use your
between-
mic?
Oh, sorry. The only difference between this plan and the previous plan is the removal of one lot. I'd spoken earlier about, correct?
That's correct. The previous plan had an additional lot on the Nixon frontage. In this new plan, they've reduced one of these lots. Instead of 5, there's now 4.
I'd spoken earlier about a need for a sidewalk on that street and that development, and obviously that fell on deaf ears with the developer. And I was down there on the weekend to look at things, and right along that road, there's 2 people on bicycles, one with a kid on and doubling, one towing dogs, a car between them, a car in front of them, and me. And that's like on a Sunday. I still kind of think that if we don't get a crosswalk in that area now, we never will. And that this is what that, Choke Creek isn't what it used to be with these additional developments, some of them not built out yet. And this will just add to the problem. Crosswalk, or sidewalk, sorry. I said crosswalk, I meant sidewalk.
Yeah, Mr. Strachan?
As the pedestrian components of the cross-section of the roadway would come up at subdivision, and our bylaw includes requirements for pedestrian structures to be in place. Whether they would be a sidewalk or not, or whether there'd be some sort of a walkway or an expanded shoulder, depends on the storm water and what we can do with stormwater in that location.
I think that we need to be clear that sometimes it's blurred between what rezoning is and where the subdivision comes in, where the approving officer takes on, and where it is governed by our subdivision bylaw that explain, because subdivisions don't normally come to council, which makes it that they don't come to council, which makes it difficult for council to see the big picture. So, as Mr. Strachan says, it's guided by our subdivision servicing bylaw where the sidewalks go, but you wouldn't see it at rezoning.
Okay, are you okay with that?
Guided by the subdivision services bylaw.
Yeah.
And when would that bylaw require a sidewalk?
Sidewalk, pedestrian structures would apply in this case, but they're not delineated at this point in the process. They're delineated at subdivision. And depending on the drainage in this area, because of the shallow to water table, whether we can have a sidewalk which is elevated or not would be determined once there's more detailed engineering completed. But there will be some form of pedestrian corridor, either as a separated component in the boulevard area or a sidewalk if it's possible. But we still have to do that detailed engineering, which happens if subdivision takes place.
And it's just the way that the legislation's created, that councils don't have input on, other than the creation of the subdivision bylaw. It's purposely made that way, that the approving officer for subdivisions must have autonomy from council. And the developments must be created per the subdivision bylaw that council obviously created.
Yeah, well, I guess related to the Lighthouse Landing subdivision, where as part of the community amendments that the developer offered was sidewalk on Johnson Street. and it wasn't left to the decision of the approving officer, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly.
That was because it was an amenity offered by,
yeah.
again, offered by the
Developer.
developer.
Yeah, and I'm saying the developer didn't hear my suggestion that that would be a really good thing in that area.
Counselor Peak.
I'd like to bring back the opportunity for trees to be planted on the yards, or in the yards, and perhaps the planner could speak to how that would be done.
Counselor, or Mr. Strachan.
If council requested that we ask that be added as a condition, it would form part of the conditions, would be registration of a covenant prior to adoption of the bylaw.
Actually, I have a little bit of a problem with that as a horticulturist. Somebody telling me how many trees or where they have to be on the property starts to get in the way of my design hopes for a particular piece of property. And because maybe I don't want any trees, maybe I want shrubbery of various kinds, ornamentals and so on and so forth, that will be equally as pleasing aesthetically. So I believe, and perhaps we can do this, but I think we're starting to get into the area, well, where do we tell them to put the vegetable garden? Do they have to have a vegetable garden, or do they have to have trees in one corner and
Yes.
not in another?
Yes.
Okay, so I really think
No, I'm just having fun
we're
with
getting a little carried away, quite frankly. And Councillor Holmes, and then Councillor Booth. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think we're telling them where to plant the trees, we're just telling them to plant some trees. That's my take on it.
Well, that's a tree.
Would this application go to SD 67? I think it would be nice to hear what they have to say when you have a development so close to a school. That's going to.
If the application proceeds to public hearing, yes, they would receive a referral, definitely. They're an adjacent property owner.
Councillor Booth, and then Councillor Trainer.
Thank you. Mr. Strachan, with the 4 lots, the kind of the larger lots there along Nixon, is the size of those lots comparable to the size of the lots along Wharf, so kind of around the corner? Those 4 that are there? Yes.
These ones are actually, because of the length of this frontage, these are actually wide enough to be RSD2. So they're over 18 meters.
Okay. That's
But-
kind of what it looks like, but are they as deep?
No,
Oh, it
that's-
doesn't, yeah.
So these ones don't meet the RSD2 zone, not because of width. They're wide enough, but they're not deep enough. They're not 30 meters deep. They're
Okay.
only 26, and then these 2 actually are just under. So they're very close to meeting it, but again, they don't meet the criteria to be RSD2. But
And
the frontage is 18 meters, which is adequate to be RSD2, but the total is not. All of the components are not in place to meet the bylaw.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr.
Okay, Councillor Trainer.
I'm just wondering, who looks after the walkway? Would that become district responsibility, or is that, like, I'm just thinking, in a year or 2 or 3, if the pavement were to crack or something, whose responsibility is that?
It would become a district structure, so during the subdivision process, there'd be an engineer design for it, and then we would, it'd be under the supervision of their engineer that it's installed, and then we would sign off on it and final and hold warranty for 1 year to ensure that it stands up to the time, and then from that point forward, it becomes our responsibility.
Does
As
it
part of
become
our-
like a right-of-way?
It's proposed to actually be a 3-meter dedicated corridor, so it's going to be part of our city lands.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, just a question on process. I was just wondering what our bylaws say about the time permitted for bringing back a matter to council that we've already decided on. Isn't there a time, a significant enough time? Or has there been, is this considered a significant enough change in the application for it to be a different application?
Mr. Strachan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, they've revised their application, so as a revised application, they can reapply immediately. They don't have to wait. They would have to wait if they had brought back the same application with the same setup and reapplied to council.
Okay. So any little change is considered a change?
It's not any little change. It has to be a change to either respond or to that's significant. This one, it is not necessarily I think significant would be arbitrary in some ways, but it is reducing a lot and increasing frontage, so responding to some of the concerns that were expressed. So in reviewing the application, we suggested that it was a revised and a new application.
Okay, good. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we've got a couple of resolutions in front of us. Anybody like to bring a resolution forward or as they are? Councillor Booth.
Do I bring them through separately?
They can come together, first and second reading. Is that
Um,
what they are?
Yes, that zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw number 2018-002 be introduced and given first and second reading. That's it?
Okay, we're doing them separately.
You can do them together, or you
Okay.
can do them separately,
Okay.
but
Oh,
Carry on.
and that a public hearing be held on February the 26th, 2018, to receive public feedback on bylaw number 2018-002.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder, please? Councillor Carlson, thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Holmes.
Just how do we go about ensuring that the covenants for the trees remains in the application? Is that, do we just give that as direction to staff, or how does that work?
Council could bring forward either a motion to request that it be a condition, or staff could approach the applicant and see if they are willing to provide that. And that would come forward as an alteration to their application prior to public hearing. So we'd bring forward at the next council meeting correspondence from the applicant, asking them if they wish to have the covenant returned as a component of their application.
So, and if you did not do it today, to put it on as a condition, or to pass a motion, staff could talk to the applicant, and then if they still didn't come forward with it, you could add it as a condition at third reading, or at the public hearing.
Councillor Peak.
And I would appreciate if staff will have that discussion, and we'll see where we go when it comes back.
Okay. I'll remember this discussion when we get to others and talk about trees and crop sizes. Councillor Barkwell.
You know, at the previous public hearing, I think we heard from a lot of residents down there that they recognized that housing would come, and a lot of people said, okay, RSD2 zoning density was what they would be willing to accept, and I imagine we're going to hear a lot of exactly the same thing. If people get up and speak and support this, and my views will be changed, but I expect that the local residents won't really think that one lot will make a difference. Just comment, we'll see at the public hearing.
Let's see, we are going to get to hair splitting when we're talking 30 centimeters. Okay, we've had a mover and a seconder. All in favor? Okay, motion carries. One opposed or abstaining?
Just
Opposed.
ask. Just ask.
Okay. Okay, motion carried. One opposed. Yeah. Okay, moving on to 11.2. Mr. Strachan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is the, an update report for the OCP amendment and rezoning application for 13610 Banks Crescent. And the first component of this report is from the CAO and related to the public hearing.
Right, we'll just talk about the details of the public hearing, first of all, to see if council wants to change any of the terms, and then Mr. Strachan will go on to the other details. So in the report, we added Schedule A with our suggestions for protocol. In my experience, it is better to determine what the protocol for a public hearing is going to be far in advance of the public hearing, and make sure that it is advertised and understood what the protocol is going to be, so that we can move forward. Just a couple of notes. There's sometimes misunderstanding with public hearings on what the actual purpose of a public hearing is, and I know recently in a nearby community, they had a situation where the residents were quite upset because they weren't answering questions and responding to the speakers. And when it comes time for the public hearing, it is for council to hear the perspectives of the speakers. So, and that's very important to remember that. So what we've put here is that questions won't be answered, but council can ask for clarification or through the chair, the council can ask for clarification, or if there's something that they're unsure of was the intent of the conversations, they can ask for clarification. One of the questions that I've been asked a lot over the last little while is the concept of having an open mind and going into a public hearing. So the best way to explain it is that there's people that believe that you must have an open mind, and that therefore you can't state an opinion before you go into a public hearing. And it's best stated that councils are actually expected to have a feeling. You've been going through this for the last 18 months. There's individuals that have voted one way or another in the different motions that have come forward. It is not incorrect to have an opinion going into the public hearing. What is necessary is that you will listen to the speakers, and there is no obligation to vote based on the number of speakers. Each decision that you come to has to be based on everything you hear and everything you've read throughout this process, but the criteria is that you must be willing to be listening, and that's where the idea of having an open mind is. It doesn't mean that you need to be willing to state that there's a good chance you'll change your mind or whatever else. You just have to not state that under no circumstances, no matter what you heard, that you would never change your mind. So that's that piece. So we've suggested 5 minutes each, and the reason, that's fairly long, but that is what our process is typically in a public hearing, and you don't necessarily want to sway too far from that. You could go down to 2 minutes, but we've suggested 5. We've suggested a speaker list, so when people are coming into the room or throughout the meeting, they can go and sign up on the speakers list. That way, we can call it. I'm going to try and see if we can set it up so that we can have it on a screen what the next 3 speakers will be, to keep it moving, and we keep that rotating. I'm just looking at the technical aspects of that. The big one, of course, is the refraining from applause and emotions, and I understand it's difficult but not to have that response. We know that there's a large contingency coming, but we also know that there will be some for both sides of the situation, and everybody needs to feel comfortable to speak, and it really is intimidating to hear that if you're speaking the opposing view. So it would be strongly suggested that we just maintain that, and that it's known up front that it's not going to be tolerated. Again, the public hearing can be adjourned from time to time, so legislation allows it. We'll have the afternoon session, we'll temporarily adjourn it, it'll go into the evening session, and then if all our speakers have had the opportunity to speak, we'll terminate the public hearing at the end of that first day. If there's more that haven't either been able to get into the room or to speak, we will schedule it. Hopefully the next day we'll have the locations and the availability with us. So as long as we state where it's going to be, then we can do that. We've already had a few letters have sent in from people that are unable to make the public hearing, though any correspondence we get now that state that it's for the public hearing, they will be in a record, in a binder for the public hearing. So we have our public record, which will still all be complete, but this one will be starting with the ones that are saying this is my statement for the public hearing. And the other key one, we have no idea how many people to expect. We're just trying to make sure we think ahead. There's approximately, I've got 285 capacity in the report. It's probably more like 275. But we can't go over capacity. Glenn Noble will ensure that. And but we also, where sometimes you run into trouble with public hearings is if you are at capacity. There's no legislation that says that everybody has the right to hear all of the comments. The only legislation is that everybody has to have the opportunity to speak. And that's sometimes a misunderstanding, and you hope that you can get as many people to hear as possible. It will be videotaped so that it's available. But if the room fills up, then we're not going to be suggesting that people leave after they speak. If you're in the room and you're in the room, then, and there's people that got turned away, we'll have to reschedule another session to make sure that they have the opportunity to come in. And that's basically what, and again, the legislation says that the chair, so the mayor, has the ability to make the rules for for a public hearing. So he could right now, these are staff suggestions. It's open to council's suggestions, and ultimately, the mayor can make the call on what they are. But we need to, whatever we decide tonight, we'll start making material to make sure that it's
Good.
available.
Okay. Personally, I'm happy with the outline that the CAO has presented. I think it's reasonable. I was interested in her comments just then when it was stated that the public has a right to speak, but if it's full, there's not necessarily the ability to hear, but the videotaping will hopefully help with that. And we'll certainly make every effort to, if it's required, to schedule the next day, et cetera, to make sure everybody who wants to speak has the opportunity to speak. And, you have the 5 minutes. If you don't choose to take 5 minutes, then that's okay, because then we'll move through the speaker list, and more people may have a chance to speak. Councillor Traynor.
Will the time be displayed somewhere? So every time did you mention that?
Nope.
No?
But it's a good idea.
I was just thinking if there's a screen that, so everybody
Is your
can
mic
see.
on, please?
So the question is whether or not we'll be displaying the time. We
Yeah.
actually have a system of lights where there's a green light and a yellow light for when there's a certain amount of 1 minute left. So we'll be using that system, and we'll be looking at what other options we can have, whether the actual time or just the light systems. But yes, something will be
Okay.
in place.
Yeah, I've seen the light system before, but if there's a possibility to get it on the screens or something like that, just so everybody can see. And then my second point was, in terms of audience feedback or anything like that, like clapping or whatever, do we have a system for ensuring that that's maybe controlled, just so that everybody feels comfortable to speak?
But that's what I said. It won't be tolerated. So
Okay.
we'll discuss the protocol on it, and I think that's one of the main reasons that you need to get your protocol out there early, so that people do understand that that's going to be the rules and that it's going to be enforced.
Thank you.
It's an extremely difficult thing, but, I think everybody has to recognize that whether it's negative indications or clapping or cheering or something to the contrary, one way or another, it's meant to intimidate somebody's point of view or somebody's desire to speak. And that's not only applying to the public, but also to council members. So, I really hope we can go through the public hearing process and have everybody respect each other as well as the council itself.
Can I just, sorry, just on that note, it's not necessarily that when the clapping happens, that it's intended
No, I
to
understand,
intimidate.
yeah.
It's
It's just that-
intended to show support for what's being spoken, but the consequences is
Yeah, that's what I was
that
talking
there's
about.
intimidation.
Yeah, I wasn't meaning it was
Yeah.
intended, but that's the consequence, yeah. Councillor Booth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a quick question of the CAO. You mentioned that there will be a chair. Is the chair the mayor, or is he able to participate fully in
I'll just be listening.
taking information in, or
The
is
chair
there someone designated?
The chair will be the mayor, but the actual, how the timing is done and the calling of names, we'll work
Yes.
that out so that
Good.
there's less, that he won't be involved in any timing matters.
Yeah,
or
and then he can
anything like-
focus on
That's right,
what
but
he
he'll
said,
call the
yeah.
meeting to order, he'll,
Right.
but
Okay.
staff can do the administrative side.
Okay.
It'll be quite a blessing because we won't be speaking. So, you can look forward to that.
And people will only be allowed to speak the one time for 5 minutes,
That's
maximum
right.
of 5 minutes.
That's right.
Thank you.
We anticipate lots of people wanting to speak.
Oh, yeah.
So. Anybody else? Councillor Holmes and Councillor Peak.
Yeah, I just have a question then about third reading and when we would have that afterwards. And do we have to give notice if we're going to have a special meeting, or are we thinking of holding it at the next regular council meeting?
Thank you, and that was supposed to be part of this, so thanks. So typically, you likely would not want to wait till the next regular scheduled council meeting for the sheer fact that you get a lot of information and you can't get any new information between the public hearing and sometimes new information can come to you, or somebody sends something in that hasn't been published before and it's new information, not just anecdotal. The recommendation is that you schedule it for third reading fairly soon afterwards. So, for example, if the public hearing finished all on the Monday, to schedule the time on Tuesday or Wednesday to have an actual council meeting. No notice is required. I do know that you want council to be all here, and that week, council is here all of that week, but it's a long time after that, between all of your schedules, that everybody's here. So I would highly recommend that week is dedicated to working through the public hearing as long as we need to have it and have your session.
Go ahead, Councillor Holmes.
So we can wait until we know when the public hearing's closed, and then we can decide then when we're going to have the...
Absolutely. You can, and as you know, like here, we sometimes, most of the time you do it right in the same meeting, that same night. Likely you'll be coming off of a long public hearing, so you won't necessarily want to do it that very same time.
Councillor Holmes.
So we should all keep our week clear.
That's right.
That's right, yeah. Councillor Peak.
Thank you very kindly. I understand about the third reading. My week is not completely clear, but I'm sure that we'll be able to work things around. I have a question in regards to the seating. I make note of the fact the first session on February 5th is first come, first served basis, and we're going to be taking a speakers list, so we'll have sign up. If we have so many speakers that sign up, but we have a room full of people that are then, some of them may be speakers, but some of them may be people just to listen, will the speakers then just wait outside the area and come in?
No, and so everybody will be in the room, and then they'll come up to the microphone, and that's why I'm hoping to be able to have a rotating screen which will show the three, each time there's the three speakers, so you know when your name is going to be called, so that you can start to
I
make your way.
understand that. I don't think you understand what
sorry.
I'm asking, which is the fact that if we have 350 people that come, and they're not all speakers, but we have all these people in the room.
Right. We will only take the speaker list for that night, we'll only take enough speakers that can come into the room. For the first speakers list, will only be enough people to be sitting, to be in the room. So people will be encouraged to go in, get their seats, and then come and sign up on the speakers list. So there won't be anyone that's on the speaker list
That doesn't have an
that doesn't have
opportunity
a
to
seat.
sit in the room.
That's right.
Thank you. And on if there's a subsequent time, I forget where it is here. The seating basis is different?
Because,
Seating priority will be given to those who have not yet had the opportunity to speak?
that's right. So the opportunity for those that want to speak, so to try to encourage, so again, we'll know after that first session how busy it's going to be. It may not be any kind of issue, but if it is an issue, you could have 285 people that never intend to speak. They just want to hear the whole public hearing. So you need to put something in place to say that if it was that busy, priority would be given to a person that signs up on the speakers list, the second and third time.
And as a configuration of the building, there really isn't an ante-room for people to sign up. Will that be done downstairs in the arena?
We're thinking of using the main doors to the arena as the entrance and having it so that if there is a lineup, you're not outside in the cold, and to line up in the arena and then to come up.
Thank you. I appreciate those answers.
Any other questions about the public hearing procedure? Okay, and I guess we're ready, Mr. Strachan, would you like to proceed?
So the next component in the recommendations to council for this report is related to the comprehensive development zone, the CD8 zone. So this zoning district was first brought forward in November 2016, but there's been several amendments to the application, and there's been lots of questions that have been asked during that process. So staff have gone and updated the CD8 zoning district. Some of the key components of that are the changes in the configuration around Building E and the townhouses. So there was an adjustment. Building E originally came across out to Latimer. It's now proposed to be moved further south, and instead there'd be a townhouse component that's on that frontage. We added the geodetic elevations as part of the zoning district. This is to ensure that the buildings not only are controlled as far as their height, but their elevation. So if they were to have a geotechnical issue, for example, or some component where they had to bring the building higher, they would have to reduce the number of floors in order to keep that geodetic elevation down. So that was a key piece that was brought forward on the initial consultation is there was in the zoning district a maximum height, but what is that height from was the question. So by using geodetic elevation, we're ensuring that that stays below that threshold. So the buildings at the back here are a little over 426, 427. The roadway adjacent here is at 440, so they're 13 to 14 meters below the roadway elevation. And those elevations are available on our system if anybody wishes to see specific locations or properties from the public as well as council as far as how they relate to the height. So that's in addition to the zoning district. So that new CD8 or updated CD8 is in your package. It's not, it's included in your package and included for the public so that it's received and available for people to review in advance of the public hearing. So we're introducing it as information now so that it can go forward to the public hearing. And at third reading, if this makes it to third reading and council considers it, we would ask council at that point to consider updating the zoning districts or amending the actual bylaw itself to include the updated plans and so forth. And that's the second component that's new since November 2016. There's more detailed drawings. So in the CD8, we've included a number of elevation and layout drawings that give a lot more detail to the placement of buildings, to the facades and so forth as far as how they're going to be located and what they're going to look like. It also establishes the maximum unit count. And that unit count is important because those, it's 415 in the current proposal, but you see the zoning district allows for 425. So if there's an adjustment from 2 bedrooms to 2 one-bedrooms, for example, during the development process, the zoning district would allow for that. The critical mark being 425 in unit count is what was used for all the engineering components. So we have to continue to have that threshold as a maximum. But it has been calculated to be 425. The current proposal for moving forward is at 415. So there may be some internal adjustments to the development that would increase it by 10 units, but it wouldn't be an increase in floor area. It'd be an adjustment for 2 bedrooms to 1 bedrooms depending on market response. The next part of the report before you is the BC Freshwater Fisheries. So they provided a report or a letter on January 19th, so this past Friday. It was added to your package. It wasn't ready at the time that the report was prepared. So as we noted in our previous council meeting, we brought forward the third-party review, the peer review that was conducted by Golder and Associates of the Aquifer Protection Plan that was brought forward by the applicants. And BC Freshwater Fisheries has provided their response that's in your package too. They continue to have a number of questions and concerns and do not support the development at this point in time. There's also within your packages a letter from the applicants dated January 15th. This component is this is they received the Golder and Associates report and they've provided a response. Within their response, they've included additional information from their geotechnical engineer as well as PITO, who's their hydrological people, related to the components that were identified by Golder in the report. And that response is a letter from them as well as a letter from the professionals. The fifth item that's in your packages is a letter from the applicant and this is related to the public input they collected. So council has received a number of letters over the past few months about input. They've formally submitted the input that they've been collecting, the letters and so forth, and council received those letters as part of your package. This is the cover letter for that package, or those series of binders that you've received. The sixth item is the statistical support report that they provided. You received a hard copy along with your letters that they had submitted. This is an analysis of the petition that's been submitted to council, as well as statistical information on the input they've collected and the letters they've collected. And those form the new information that council's received to date since January 8th. So this is new information for council to be included as part of the information moving forward to public hearing. The second item that's within your package there is related to a memo that we prepared for council to sort of give some context to the steps. There's been a lot of moving parts over the last 14 months to get us to this point. So we've included a memo, and the memo outlines sort of how the steps worked to get to where we are now, from the introduction of the bylaws in November and December of 2016 to council scheduling actually originally a public hearing for January of 2017. Subsequent to that, there was an open house as well as a public information session, and council then followed up with a canceling of the public hearing and requesting a series of information, additional information on the potentials of the project around infrastructure, financial analysis, environmental reporting, and concerns that were identified by BC Freshwater Fisheries on the potential impacts to the aquifer. So those components started in January of 2017 and carried through until October. So staff have been reporting back to council, I believe, 15 or 16 times over the year with various updates, various parts of this, but now it's coming together as a final package to move forward to public hearing. So it was a lengthy process. And what we've done is you'll note in this memo that we've got some key reports to council. So there's bits and pieces that arrive throughout the year, but they end up being summarized in some of the more recent reports. So around the infrastructure and financial, you saw bits and pieces in all the way through the year, including some financial bits in May. But those came together in the two reports that are listed for November, which is November 14th, which is an update report around infrastructure, and November 27th, which is the update around financial. So those are the more meaty reports that were in November that sort of outline those detailed components and the various potential impacts financially as well as infrastructure, as well as we had an opportunity to talk to council about how the different components work with infrastructure related to direct costs or DCCs or things that could be considered for amenity. And we had the discussion around how amenity contributions can come forward from the developer and what the rules and sort of legislation around those pieces are. The next piece was related to the amenity contributions directly. So at this point in time, council at their January 8th meeting received a letter, a proposal from the applicant, which includes $100,000 for underground electrical. So this is related to areas to the east of where the development is proposed, where there's some electrical poles that they're proposing or suggesting could be put underground. That is a $100,000 contribution towards that component, as well as there's a component for Latimer, which is identified as $600,000. I see it's missing a zero in your report here, but $600,000 is the estimated cost for Latimer. So just to be clear on how these actually work, so the Latimer is going to include an upgrade to its right-of-way to a collector standard. So the proposal at this time is for the developer to do that component as an amenity contribution, and the estimated cost for that is $600,000. They've also proposed a $300,000 amenity contributions towards Solly Road. Along with that, we've had some discussion around what potentially could happen, and we'll discuss a little further about what could happen around DCCs as far as the remaining cost for Solly Road, not just down to Latimer, but down all the way to the bottom. So those are currently the amenity contributions that have been proposed by the applicant and are before council, and those amenity contributions, we've discussed briefly around how that goes into public hearing. So they would go forward into public hearing unless council brings forward suggestions or recommendations for us to go back to the developer on those amenities. Following public hearing, those amenities become somewhat solidified. However, there could be adjustments to increase them in response to the public hearing, but they would have to be within the parameters of what's been established as components. So it can't be something brand new, but it could be an increase in one component or another to be negotiated with the applicant if through public hearing information came forward that made council feel that that was an important part to do. And also in January, we received a letter from BC Freshwater Fisheries as part of that input. There was a discussion subsequent to that that carried through all the way till January of this year. So initially, we were looking at having discussions between LARC and BC Freshwater Fisheries. However, in the summer last year, we were asked as the district to actually be the intercommunicating body between the two parties. During that process, we looked at a number of different options and initially began with looking at a well as an option for an alternative water source or a contingency water source for BC Freshwater Fisheries. However, the water composition that was found to be different than the aquifer water, so although the well location would be within the area of the aquifer location, it wasn't actually drawing water from the aquifer. It was a different source and had a different chemical composition. There's also a variability in reliability on being able to hit water in that area, so there's concerns around the well component. So they looked at then looking at other options, and the options that were reviewed included deep water lake intake, which had issues around temperature as well as the potential for pathogens as some of the major issues, as well as how that would work. The proposal was brought forward as utilizing one of the district's water licenses to draw that water out of the lake. But we didn't go too far down exploring that with council because that was then replaced by a proposal for the Aquifer Protection Plan. So that was then introduced to council in September as an alternative to looking towards an alternative water source, was instead to protect the aquifer through some additional monitoring and additional study. That strategy, when it was presented to council, staff brought forward a recommendation. There was concerns from the public as well as concerns from council that we needed to really have that proposal reviewed by a third party. So staff were asked to pursue a third-party review of the plan that was presented. Staff then got Golder and Associates to do a review, which was then presented to council on January 8th. Just for clarification, because this question has come up, is the actual component of the strategy is related to the aquifer itself, so below grade, related to construction activity. It is separate from the stormwater and erosion control plan. So the sediment and erosion control plan formed part of the original infrastructure pieces, and there was subsequent to that review that were conducted by a city engineer, as well as we had other engineer review it. So that formed part of sort of the stormwater management plan and how surface water was going to be handled on the site. So the Golder report is not related to surface water. So the construction site and the potential for dirty water essentially to flow off the site. There's a separate plan that's been in place and brought forward to council. There's more detail that's required in that plan, but there's a sufficient plan as far as how it's going to be managed that staff have recommended the council move forward. Within the development agreement, so that major infrastructure document that would follow should this be given third reading, there'll be more detail required around that plan. Right now, it's mostly graphical. We don't have the written report component of that plan, and that needs to be completed. At this point in time, though, this would be a part of the development agreement that would be established should the application move forward.
Excuse me, Mr. Strachan, before we go much further, Councillor Carlson
Just
has
a quick question. When the plan for a contingency water source was abandoned, for lack of other term, who proposed the aquifer protection plan? Was it the Freshwater Fisheries or the developer or the district?
The district did not. It was actually proposed by the applicants.
By the developer.
So by LARC Group, they proposed the aquifer protection plan. It was in response to some comments that were made by Freshwater Fisheries about wanting the aquifer to be protected instead of looking at an alternate water source. The priority was to be able to continue to use the aquifer source for water. At one of the council meetings, there was that presentation around that component, and this was the response that the applicants had to that presentation.
Okay.
Was to move away from looking at an alternate water source to a protection plan for the existing water source.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Strachan.
One of the other key components identified was environmental reporting. And this is where these long timelines become a little bit difficult. So back in May of 2017, council received the environmental reporting, and the district's environmental planner reviewed that. There was amendments made, and it was brought forward and finalized. This environmental plan is only finalized for the rezoning portion of this. Should this move forward past rezoning, there'd still be a requirement for a development permit, where there's more detailed required environmental information with the final construction plan. So should this move forward, there's another environmental piece that plays into it. Other portions that I didn't include, in my memo to council, is the response that we received around both the aquifer as well as the environmental reporting from the Ministry of Environment. So we did receive a referral response from them around the requirements, both through regulation of protecting the water source as well as protecting environmental characteristics in that area. So that was included with those that same time in May, and it should have been a part of my memo, as well as the letters we received from the Penticton Indian Band. So we had discussions with the Penticton Indian Band about this proposed location, and we had direct communications with them, and we put actually the applicant in touch with PIB, and they had their discussions around the different components, and they brought forward a letter of recommendation from PIB on what should be done from an archaeological perspective, because there isn't a formal identified archaeological feature here. They made some recommendations, and we did receive a letter from the applicant committing to bringing PIB in should this receive rezoning prior to making development applications to do the review they've recommended. The next piece in the memo is the scheduling of the public hearing. So as I noted, back in January 2016, we started to outline what was needed to move forward to public hearing, and we've got these various components in these reports. There's 6 reports here for council to reference back to, and that sort of brought us to the last council meeting where we asked council to schedule a public hearing. So that's now been scheduled. So there has been some questions, and this is the second part of the memo, around what happens next. So as has already been alluded to, CAO has already spoken to what would happen around third reading, so I won't reiterate any of those components, but they're around the development agreement.
Okay, at this point, does council have any questions of Mr. Strachan? Councillor Barkwell.
Yes, sort of related to Councillor Carlson's questions. I was reviewing the material yesterday, and I note that back in September 7th, there's a letter from the Freshwater Fishery Society that says the society originally required a contingency water supply, and then goes on, until Lark Group's pending plans have been prepared and submitted for review by both the Fishery Society and an independent reviewer to confirm risks have been adequately managed, the society requirement for a contingency water supply will remain in place. So that tells me that until this plan, which they've done, and the Golder has reported, until that we expect a contingency water supply. If that's done, then we don't require a contingency water supply. Then on our letter that we received on the 19th, they say, it is important to note that all society correspondence to date consistently specifically stated our requirement for a contingency water supply, which in the event of a spring, so which is it? Are they insisting on a contingency water supply, or are they satisfied with the Golder, the review of the Golder, or the Golder's review of their, plan?
Go ahead, Mr. Strachan, or would you like to speak, Stan?
I was just going to inform council that if you had specific questions for the fisheries, that it would you could call them up to ask them to speak, but it would just be an unanimous resolution on your part if you did need to hear from them directly.
I wouldn't mind. Would council like to be able to hear from Freshwater Fisheries this evening?
I would like to hear from them, but I'm not sure if this is the time and place.
Yeah, can
Maybe
be.
community of the whole, or?
No, it's fine, as far as I know.
Or it's fine if that's what council wanted, or if you wanted to, you could ask them to come back.
I'm thinking that, it's putting the fisheries people in a tough spot that already,
They did
they're not
ask to,
expecting.
they did ask to
Oh.
come as a delegation today,
Mhm.
and they're aware that there could be questions asked of them, and that this would be the process if they were to speak. Is that correct, Dean?
Yeah. So it has to be a unanimous decision of
For
council?
council, if you were to invite them up.
Okay. Would council like to do that? Would it be a unanimous deal?
You just ask for a motion.
A motion to that effect, please? Councillor Holmes? Okay, seconder? Councillor Boot? Okay, all in favor? Looks like it is unanimous. So, would fisheries like to come forward and be able to respond to questions and so on, please? Yeah, thank you, Mr. Gergen. I guess around the question that Councillor Barkwood just raised, and referring back to Mr. Strachan's comments, as I understand, given that I believe it was the two contingency water sources that were suggested in one way or another didn't meet the requirements, and then it was suggested that you wanted to be able to protect your the original source to maintain the kind of quality that you require. So does that, despite that though, I read your memo to us that came a couple of days ago, that you still expect a contingency water source. So I'm
Yes.
a little bit bewildered.
Okay, well, we did ask for an opportunity to speak tonight, and I really appreciate this opportunity, Mayor and Council. I do have a statement, and then I would like to make myself available for any questions here this evening. The statement is small. I would also like to introduce Mr. Tim Yaseki, our Vice President of Operations for the Freshwater Fisheries Society of BC, and beside him, Andrew Wilson, the President of the Freshwater Fisheries Society of BC. They are also here tonight to answer any high-level questions that Council may have. Check, check. Okay, yes, we did issue a letter dated January 19th. I'm not going to stand up here and read our latest letter word for word. I know it is on the lengthy side, but I also consider it clear and well articulated. Instead, I have a short statement and wanted to give Council the opportunity to ask any questions before we head into the public hearing and to attempt to provide some clarity around our letter dated January 19th, 2018. The Aquifer Protection Strategy includes recommendations for an aquifer/spring monitoring program that we introduced in April of 2017, and an erosion sediment control plan that I was told was acceptable because the district engineers and a third-party reviewer had given it the approval. But here we are all these months later, still discussing these items. The Society's review of Lark Group's Aquifer Protection Strategy, i.e. Erosion and Sediment Control Plan, has identified several issues and concerns and confirmed that the Aquifer Protection Strategy does not address the Society's long-held and consistently stated concerns and requirements related to Shaughnessy Spring water quality. Our primary concern with the proposed Erosion Sediment Control Plan is that it lacks specific contingencies, i.e. responses that would be implemented upon determining that aquifer water and/or spring water has been impacted. It is my hope that Council finally understands that this aquifer protection strategy only goes so far. And as we have stated many times, we need to see responses related to the impacts on our water. The Society's letter delivered to the District on September 7th, 2017, requested that all proponent submissions relating to aquifer and/or Shaughnessy Spring water quality hazards and risks be considered by an independent third party. Our September 7th letter also requested that the terms of reference for the independent review include consideration of the Society's stated concerns and noted our expectation that proponent submissions should be necessarily include discussions of unmitigated water quality risks, i.e. prior to mitigation being implemented, and residual water quality risks, i.e. mitigations are applied. The purpose of requesting the risk discussion was to position readers, and when we say position readers, we mean us, everybody in this room, including the society. The purpose of requesting the risk discussion was to position readers to fully understand what water quality hazards were identified by LARC, and also to understand the reduction of water quality risks resulting from LARC's mitigation effort. Yet the district's terms of reference for the peer review lacks any reference to the Society's requested contingencies for managing risks of impacted water entering the hatchery facility. Somebody in this room made the decision to include only one of the many documents and communications from the Society into the third-party review. Why? I perceive this as a wasted opportunity to figure out long-standing issues associated with development of Banks Crescent and the hatchery. This isn't the first time these issues have come up to the district. Due to the incomplete terms of reference set out by the district, Golder's peer review does not discuss specific contingencies to be implemented in the event of elevated turbidity in either the aquifer or Shaughnessy Springs water, as requested by the Society, which we assume is because LARC's aquifer protection strategy doesn't include these provisions. The Society considers the peer review process to be deficient, and therefore we must remain opposed to the ICASA development. We have been told multiple times by Council that the hatchery operations must not be endangered, but we are not seeing the proof of these public comments, and we continue to feel endangered. Hence, the alternative water source is still considered a necessity by the Society. It is my opinion that the appropriate information and communication during this process has not been fulfilled. For example, for us, this has been a 22-month process. In that 22 months, not one single individual has asked me how long it takes for the water to get from the spring to the hatchery. How do you build a comprehensive and effective contingency strategy when you don't know how much time you have to react? It is also our opinion that we are quickly heading into a final decision-making period with many unknowns, such as an unmapped aquifer and incomplete information on which to base a decision. The risks have been established. The responses to these risks have not been established. But interestingly, liability has been discussed, which makes me think that contingency plans or responses to possible water quality issues associated with this development are not the priority of the developer or the district. So, we are left with no other choice but to remain opposed to the opposed to the proposed ICASA development and to related amendments to the official community plan. This Society position is necessary based on our mandate and responsibility as operators and managers of the Summerland Hatchery and the recreational fisheries it supports. Now, if there are still any questions, I would love to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barkwell, and I would like a question.
You referenced communication in this process and questions that you've expected people to ask and they haven't asked. Back in the spring sometime, the Fish Hatchery Society said, basically, we're not going to talk to LARC anymore. All communication has to go through the district. To me, at that time, I didn't say anything at that time, it kind of felt like if you were still provincial civil servants, like the Fish Hatchery used to operate as, you couldn't do that.
Speak into your mic,
Sorry,
please, Councillor.
you couldn't do that. You would have to say, you would have to, if there was a personality conflict, you would have to put somebody else in that position, and you would have, and they would have to go on. You know, you'd have to maybe identify what you thought was incorrect, but direct discussions would go on. That is what would have facilitated more communication and a faster resolution of these issues. It's unfortunate that you haven't come to speak to council directly earlier, and I've often thought that I would like to speak to you about some of these things, and it just doesn't fit with the process. But I don't think that you can sit there and blame council and our staff and Lark Group for the difficulties that you're having entirely. There's enough to go around, maybe, but you got to share some of that. Are you willing to sit down with Lark and more clearly articulate what you think needs to be done?
I would suggest that as hatchery manager, I would be willing to sit down and discuss further details. Unfortunately, Councillor Barca, we have tried that in the past. And all that seemed to do was what came out of these discussions was a misrepresentation of our society, of our requests and our needs to protect our operations. We have tried this before. I was very excited, and I thought that we had a really good opportunity to work on this moving forward. It didn't work. We just couldn't get it to work. The very, very early on in the discussion with the proponents, some of the language that was used was not appropriate to this process. And I felt that as a hatchery manager, that it was probably be better if we communicated these issues and these concerns through the district.
Okay, just to carry on there a little bit, I understand that, and that sort of thing was unfortunate. I think over the duration, though, with the additional reports, the additional concerns that the public has brought to us, our various discussions, I think the process and relationships have matured to the extent that I think it's worth suggesting that, where you suggest that contingencies have not been brought forward by the Lark Group, that given the letter that I see here, January 20th from them, that they're very willing to talk to you about contingencies. One of the things that kind of I'm a little confused about is in your discussions with Golder, they make note of comments by you about your existing source, and that and I became much more aware from those comments as to how the source of water actually appears for you, in terms of the way there can be spontaneous water coming from that 1.2 hectare area and so on. And above the sump area where you collect your water, you have a 200-meter pipe, correct?
No.
Oh, it
Below, so from...
below the sump, to your hatchery?
Correct.
Okay. So to the sump, it's really, I understand, about a 100-meter open kind of stream?
Yes.
Okay, so above that, there's a wet area that can bring moisture or water to that stream, and it enters the
An
sump
emergent point,
in the
yes.
pipe, right? So, I gather from the comments in the report that up till now, or at least up until August, when you put a data logger in place, which I don't know whether it's being fixed or not now, perhaps it has, but up until that point, any concerns about analysis of the water was determined by a once-a-year analysis of the water by a lab. And any events that may, like turbidity events that can occur from sloughing above your source, that those can be brought forward by, we know there's always deer in those gulches and other animals and coyotes and so on. So they would be quite free to be moving in and around that whole water source. In fact, they'd come there for water, probably, I would imagine. So in the 100-meter stretch, which is open stream, they have the ability to disturb that stream and disturb any soil, and as you point out, animal impacts on sloughing can impact your turbidity, and hence you then examine the water visually in your tanks and determine whether there's enough turbidity there to warrant stopping the flow. And I gather, recycling the water somehow so the turbidity is reduced, is that correct? more or less?
No, not entirely.
Well, I'm a little bit confused on how you do it, but essentially, you are looking at a visual determination of turbidity as to what might that level be to impact the fish. And I guess what I wonder a little about is that the potential for remediation of the source above the sump and above your existing pipe, there's probably, I would suggest, in any discussion about, potential discussions between you and the developer about contingencies, might be reflected in a discussion that perhaps that stream could also be put into a pipe and make sure that there's no animal disturbance. And I would suggest there's opportunity prior to it going into the sump or at the sump to allow for settling, for additional filtration, for sophisticated monitoring of turbidity levels like we have to do for our own water source. Because I note that in the monitoring wells, initially the turbidity measurements were quite high compared to the freshwater fishery source. But once they remediated the columns to more reflect the compaction that's required, that the NTUs dropped down to below, I don't know, 0.4, 0.7, or less than that. It was, or 1.4, I can't remember the exact numbers, but they were pretty much matching what you had in your source. So I guess where I'm coming from is that when it comes to the aquifer itself, the early warning that might be supplied by any monitoring on site, apart from your property, would signal to you a potential turbidity event that might be coming down the pipe, so to speak.
Yes.
And would give you that warning, and perhaps at an analytical level that would be greatly enhanced over what you might do in a visual sense in your tanks. So I'm suggesting that there's an opportunity here for sophisticated instrumentation anywhere in that system on your property, as well as on the existing or the potential site. And so I would think that there's an opportunity in discussions with LARC about contingency that you may want to address that, because I understand as a society you may have very limited funds to enhance that whole water reception network that you have. And I would be very surprised if LARC weren't able and willing to supplement that to ensure that you had a sophisticated operating system to ensure not only total reduction of turbidity entering that 200-meter pipe, but an analytical process that would give you far more advanced warning than what you have presently. So I think there's real room here for a good, honest discussion with the developer to mitigate concerns that you already have, regardless of this development, that I'm sure, I'm not absolutely sure, I can't tell you, what they would do, but I think it would be worthwhile discussing the potential for that kind of mitigation and level of sophistication that you currently don't have. So is that something that might be addressed if you have any potential discussions about contingencies with the developer?
Again, as hatchery manager, I would be willing to have these discussions. What I find frustrating and concerning is that, the hatchery and the spring is 7 minutes away from here. How come, why haven't we received any, official requests for an information gathering tour? For example, the 100-meter stream, that exposed stream that you were discussing, is covered. We have it's not encased, but we have a fencing over top of it to reduce the amount of opportunities for animals to get in there and stir it up. It's well documented from day one that we do have turbidity events. There's no question about it.
I understand that, yeah.
Our concern is the sustained turbidity events. So that the turbidity events, the events that we have now, again, 22 months later, and here I am up here saying the same thing over and over again. We have turbidity events, they last for an hour to a half a day maximum. They are not daily, they are not frequent, but they do happen. My concern is the continued, sustained turbidity events that will affect our fish. That's my concern. The talk about more open and honest discussions regarding contingencies at our spring, it's a great idea. But why now? Like, aren't we 4 weeks from a public hearing?
Well, I agree.
I don't understand how.
I think, although, I fully understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. And it's, but here's an opportunity right now to, I would encourage everybody to have those kind of understandings. And, Lark has said that they're willing to try and meet your contingency requirements. And I think the discussions are well worthwhile. And I really, don't get me wrong, I really do want to see sufficient protection for your water source. So, I don't regard that as a light comment. Anyway, there's two councillors that'd like to speak. Councillor Carlson?
Just a quick question. There's a letter that we have January 20th from the Lark Group from Kirk Fisher. I'm wondering if you've seen that as well.
No, we haven't seen that.
Okay, so there's a couple of lines that I think are important, and I would like to ask whether or not they begin to address the lack of contingencies that you've stated are an issue. One line here, we have agreed to all recommendations from Golder reports and our engineer reports and will implement them all. 2, if turbidity is generated by construction vibration, work will stop immediately and mitigation actions will be implemented. As indicated by the Golder report and the FFSBC comments, the aquifer filters itself, which is to say that turbidity will stop shortly after the construction-related vibrations stop. And 3, we have previously offered and will continue to offer any support the hatchery requires through this period to ensure their interests are protected. So I guess my question is, specifically, as indicated by the FFSBC comments, that the aquifer filters itself and that turbidity will stop shortly after construction-related vibrations stop. My understanding from reading that, and we just received this afternoon, is that that would be the beginning of a contingency plan. How much contingency plan are you looking for, and I'm assuming you need more than just a letter?
We need more than just a letter. We need specifics and details. So I'll give you an example. I mentioned before how, nobody has asked me about time, right? So our preliminary tests show that from emergent point to our incubation rooms, which are currently empty, there's no eggs in them, 12 minutes. When those, in about May, June, our incubation rooms are full of approximately 2.8 million trout eggs. At full capacity and full flow, that goes down to 6 minutes. So what we would be looking for is, through the monitoring program, if it's determined that there is an issue with the water, we have 6 to 12 minutes to come up with a plan. That's what's missing. That's what's always been missing, is what is the plan if it is determined that the water is impacted, what is the plan?
Just to follow up on that then, if you say currently the incubation rooms are empty, are there certain times of year that would then also be part of a plan as to when would be most ideal for something that could cause a vibration?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the kind of information that hasn't been, okay, thank you.
And that's also in our January 19th letter. Yep.
Thank you very much. I think we have a few other questions. Councillor Boot and Councillor Peak. Anybody else? Okay, Councillor Boot.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple of comments and a couple of questions, Kyle.
Yes.
Some time ago, you said that you needed to have a contingency water supply.
Yes.
And contingency water supply that was proposed was a deep water intake, and that did not, there were concerns with that, with pathogens that are in the lake that couldn't be mitigated. And the proponents kind of left that behind and returned to their suggestion of the well monitoring. Do you know why?
No. I think my impression was that, there was more concerns around dollars than there was around potential pathogens in the water.
Thank you. And so we've heard already tonight that your need for a contingency water source, as you have said, you've expressed that a number of times, that still remains?
It still remains. It's important at this point, I believe, in this process to not look at a contingency water supply as a very expensive, costly piece of infrastructure. From my point of view, I think it is more important to look at that alternative water supply as a symbol. We are so dissatisfied with the level of planning around contingency and mitigating impacted water coming into the hatchery that's the only option I have. I can't think of anything else. That nothing else has been presented to us. Nothing else has been investigated thoroughly. That's all I have. To feel safe, that's all I have. I need to be able to flick a switch and instantly have new water if that water up at the spring is impacted in any way.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. In a discussion that I had with the Director of Development Services, maybe back October or November, we were discussing this very thing and about the monitoring wells and how the water flows through there and how it's unmapped, etc. I asked him how, I was aware of this contingency that you have for the occasional turbidity events that you've experienced, and asked how long that contingency would work. This was with the recycled water?
Mm-hmm.
And he replied a few hours,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, a few hours. And he also responded to a question, I believe Council Trainer asked it at the last meeting. What happens if there is a significant turbidity event and the water with the turbidity makes its way to the hatchery?
Mm-hmm.
And the response was that there would be, death of the fish.
Mm-hmm.
Is that accurate?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And you've suggested that, you've written that in your letter, too,
Yes.
significant morbidity of the fish and the fish eggs.
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you. So my question is, and I guess it's maybe reiterating what you have been saying several times just tonight. We understand that the contingency, they will monitor the wells. If they find turbidity, the construction will stop. My understanding of what you've been saying is that the construction stops, presumably the turbidity settles, but what happens? And I would go a little bit further and say, if the construction has caused turbidity, even if the construction stops and the turbidity settles, once the construction resumes, are you in the same position again? I know that that's kind of a rhetorical question, and
Yes.
there's maybe not an answer.
Yep.
But it seems to me that if you don't have this contingency water supply, then there is a real risk that the Freshwater Fisheries Society will be unable to carry on the contract that they have with the province.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Peak, a question?
Yes, thank you very much. I, too, as Councillor Barkwell stated, have concerns about the fact that we really need to have yourselves and the developer talking together. I would really recommend that we have a facilitated discussion with our planner and you and the developer around the responses to the idea of contingency plan and what those responses would be. I think there's been a lot of awkwardness involved in this particular process. Either you're frustrated, certainly sitting at this table, I'm frustrated. I would really like to see some movement forward so that there's some real discussion about what those possibilities are. And if it's a contingency water supply, it's much more than a symbol. It's a fact. I make note of the fact that your own society has back as far as 2004 and 2016 looked at your own water source and have realized that in your own risk management there are things that probably need to be done. And I think that those background discussions and reports that you have indicate that it is more than just what could occur on this property, that there are exposures that you have in your own sourcing that could be there regardless of whether there's a development or not. I could say that in risk management in terms of the society, perhaps some years back, the acquisition of more lands behind you could have been a possibility. This is a development that's come forward to the proposal, and they're working around all the things that have come to them as well. But I would really like to see a facilitated discussion happen around these reports.
I respect that. I respect that request. Again, I just have to ask, why now? Like, where have you been? Why not? You know, we've been trying to have these discussions for a very long time, and it just didn't go anywhere. You know, hence we came to the district. Okay, facilitate these discussions. Still didn't go anywhere. You know, I don't understand what else we need to do. You know, so. And again, you know, it's really great, Councillor Peak, that you would like to see that happen, but again, we're 4 weeks from a public hearing, so.
I can't do anything about the time, Mr. Gerken. I can only say that this needs to happen.
When?
I put that to staff.
Okay, I think, Dean, did you have before somebody else, Dean, did you have a?
We certainly would be willing to set some times up to meet with the freshwater fisheries as well as the Lark Group, and I'm sure they've indicated in their correspondence to the district that they were willing to have further discussions around contingency as well as mitigation plans. And a lot of the components that are outlined around mitigation have different terminology in the reports because there's different professionals involved, but there is components of monitoring pre-construction and also pre-impact on the property that identifies how that would be mitigated and monitored through the system. There's different terminology that's used, so it may just be a communication component as well to these correspondence. So some of the terminology that appears in the freshwater fisheries letter from September 27th, there is actually a response to in the Golder report, but it's using different terminology from an engineering perspective on risk management versus mitigation planning. So I think some discussions would certainly help around communication in particular, as well as how these plans need to be mapped out to provide that security on mitigation for the hatchery and make them feel comfortable that there is a plan in place, as well as how we control that plan as the district through the development agreement.
Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Gergen, I really do appreciate your frustration. I understand it. I think in just about any relationship, whether it's one like this or any one you want to name, the style or the ability to communicate in a manner that people are satisfied is one of the key things. I'd really hate to see both yourselves or the developer, you know, not achieve what you want just because of you know, communication styles or communications that didn't take place in a manner that was particularly useful. I think at one point we felt that you know, going through our planner for yourself and for Lark was crossing things well enough that there was responses going to and from, but apparently I see that as being still somewhat inadequate as opposed to face-to-face, perhaps facilitated as Councillor Peak has indicated, to that be a preferable way to go. And so if there's a chance, as Mr. Strachan has just stated, to go in that direction, I would encourage it, because I think everybody here wants to ensure that the fisheries are protected. The one area that I am concerned about is your comment about contingency water supply, that I was under the understanding that the problem with pathogens and water temperature in particular were the difficulty that you saw with the deep water source. And any information I remember about temperature was that at depth, you're talking virtually no fluctuations in temperature down at 30 or 40 meters in the range of, give or take a degree, around 4 or 5 degrees C. And so as you got closer to the surface, of course, there's much wider fluctuations. And I saw that, if there's pathogen problems, that is an engineering solution.
Mhm.
And considering the size of this development and the amount of money that's, they're looking at, that I'd be very surprised if it was financial that is preventing or not moving ahead with the looking at more closely of a contingency water supply, because there are ways of dealing with pathogens that are very simple. So it would seem to me that those sorts of things could be met. Maintaining water temperature is another thing that I think can be handled, whether it's double-sleeved stainless pipe, I don't know, but those sorts of technologies and temperature monitoring, et cetera, can be done. And so I would encourage any discussions that you have, that you look at the degree of sophistication required to meet your needs, and then it's up to the developer to try and to meet those.
Sorry,
And,
could you repeat that, please?
Pardon me?
It's what?
I think it's up to the developer to try
Thank you.
and meet your requests. And,
Yep, no, I appreciate
given that
that.
they, are looking at a sizable investment in the community here, that I would think that they would be willing to have a reasonable discussion around meeting your needs. And so I don't want to presuppose or pre-calculate what might happen, but I'd sure like to see some discussion go ahead. I think we've got two more, Councillor Barkle and Councillor
I'm sorry, I would just like to comment
sorry, go
on that
ahead.
for 1 second.
Yep.
So I absolutely agree. The alternative water supply, the deep water option, we never took that off the table. We never said no. We never said that's a bad idea. None of that. What was told to me is that it is, how was it put? It is ridiculous. It is unreasonable to think that the Freshwater Fisheries Society won't incur cost in regards to the deep water option. Why would we incur costs on this? I don't understand. You just said yourself that the developers are responsible for this. The other part of it is, so I'm really surprised this did not go at all like I had planned. I'm really surprised at the amount of interest all of a sudden regarding communications between us and the developer. This hasn't been around for many, many, many months. And I will tell you, I'm all for it. Again, I'm all for it. Of course, I'd have to check with the rest of the team. But what's going to have to be built right off the bat is trust. That's what's going to have to be built, like you mentioned, in any kind of relationship. Very early on, before we decided to stop communicating with the developers, a proponent came into my hatchery and told me that because they know of the sellers, they know what the sellers are like, that if this doesn't go through, they're going to be looking for somebody to sue. And that was like thank you very much. That was an introductory discussion with the proponents. That kind of language, and the language like it's unreasonable to think that the society won't incur costs, that is where the trust is going to have to be rebuilt. Those kind of comments are not conducive to this process and this relationship.
Okay.
Mayor
So-
Waterman,
so-
Mr. Strachan made that comment, and I think he wants to speak to it.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Strachan.
Thank you, Your Worship, Mr. Mayor. As noted, it was related to the water delivery. So if the deep water intake was done, it would have a pipe, it would have a pump, It would have the UV treatment system, and it would deliver water to the hatchery. It was around what would happen internally to accept that water and what would be done internally as far as what would need to be done inside the hatchery that would be a component that freshwater fisheries would need to undertake. That wasn't a discussion around paying for a component of the delivery system. It's that the applicant came forward, they have engineers who are around water and so forth, but they're not experts in operation of a hatchery. And the sort of component that was looking at was more, what would the water do once it was delivered to the hatchery? So that was fairly specific about that comment around what would happen internally in the hatchery. Not that there would be some cost on delivering it, it'd be what happens once it's delivered to the hatchery. And you guys are the experts in that area.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Strachan. I think Councillor Barkwell and then Councillor Trainer, I believe.
I think getting this resolved is a lot more important than our public hearing date, and council can change the date for the public hearing. So, and I kind of got a feeling that this is going to take more than a day or two if we are going to see any progress. So, council, I think we'll have to have that discussion. Councillor Carson, you had...
Just I think that would become quite difficult. I will be away in March, and I believe Aaron Trainer will be going away for a while in April and probably May, and who knows, maybe even June.
I think Councillor Barkwell, we need to let things play out for a few days. I think Mr. Strachan indicated that there's opportunities here over the next week or so to
Well, maybe a
move ahead.
deadline is good to see
Well,
things
it could
done, but
be.
the questions might come up.
Yeah.
I would say it's not out of the realm.
I don't think
of-
it's something we
yeah.
need to entertain right now, but I
Yeah,
understand personally.
and before I go on, looked like you had something to add?
Just that if there was new information that would be valuable prior to the public hearing, council could call another meeting or two meetings to hear whatever other new information there needs to have.
I think you're correct, Councillor Barco. It's important to do this thoroughly and make sure we address things. Mr.
Wait, I haven't
Strachan,
finished.
I think, okay.
Yeah, that was just a prelude. As far as your comment about why now, I can speak for myself in that I look back, I stood back. I didn't think that this was right, what was going on, but I kind of had faith that we had a bunch of engineers and professionals involved, and that it was a technical matter, and that somehow it would work out. I certainly understand, if you hear things like they're going to want to sue somebody, that would put my back up as well, and I understand that. We're going to have to get past that, though, like you said. I work for Revenue Canada. Do you think that people speak pleasantly to me all the time?
Probably not.
Probably not. And so if we have engineers talking to engineers, maybe other outside parties, and you put on the table more specific requirements and the information and be a little bit more sort of forthcoming, this is what I think you should know. And, because the appearance from what I've seen on the outside, when you do things like you don't release the 2004 Golder report and you say, we're not going to share that information, and, I think, well, that was paid for with tax dollars. Our fishing licenses, the year before, when it was a government agency, it has the appearance of that it's being held for some reason. If you could say, well, we don't think it's of any importance or relevance, but here you go, I would have had a little bit more confidence that things are going the way they should. The same as there was, I can't remember the other thing, there was something else where, the fish hatchery didn't seem to be as open. Well, I got it marked right here. But anyhow, you know my point. We just got to change, I think everybody has to change their attitude here. And,
Okay, I think we'll move on, Councillor Barkle. I guess I'm at fault as much as anybody. I've been reminded that we are actually looking at questions to Mr. Gergen or staff, so if I could move backwards, I would, but I can't. So, Councillor Trainer, have you a question, please? Was there anybody else wanted to come up? Councillor Peak, anybody? Okay, thank you.
This is for you, Kyle. I was
Yes.
just wondering, stepping back from all this, how do you feel about going back to the table and talking? Like, do you see a resolution at all in your mind from the bigger picture?
Yeah, because I have been so heavily involved in this process since day one almost, it would really come down to who I'm talking to. There are particular relationships that have been destroyed is awfully strong word, but there's relationships that are not compatible, in terms of moving forward with a process like this. But I think as long as people understand that this is going to be a very, very, very slow process, we are going to require that all the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, as the developer or whomever we decide to go into discussions with has to know that this is not going to happen overnight. We have just this discussion tonight, I can't help but feel like we just wasted a whole bunch of time. And now we're practically starting over again. We are discussing things that took place or, discussing communications that happened many, 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 many months ago. So if this is where we decide to go and the district and the developers want to move forward, we are almost starting from scratch. Can there be an agreement between us and the developers or us and the district? I would say so. The society has never been anti-development. Never. We just need to protect our interests and protect our operations and protect the interest of 300,000 stakeholders that buy a fishing license every year. That's what it comes down to. We are not anti-development. We need to protect our operations.
Good, that's great. Thank you very much. Anybody else have any questions?
Just one quick one.
Just one quick one, yes?
Are there times when there are no fish in the hatchery? Like, this is really important information that I can't believe has never been discussed before with the developer. Like, when you have eggs, of course, it's the most sensitive, but this sort of thing, I'm astounded really that it hasn't come up, as are you. Is there a time when construction could place that there is no risk, or there's always fish and there's always, just only reduced levels of sensitivity?
No, there are windows where we have reduced amount of fish.
Mm-hmm.
For example, we start our spring release season in April, and middle of July, end of July, we usually have all of our fish out the door. We do have some remaining brood stock that do remain on site all the time. Unfortunately, when those fish so that part of the hatchery is empty, that's when our eggs are here. So there isn't a period of time where the hatchery is empty. Or, Mr. Barkwell, if there is, and I could look through historical data, it's going to be a very small window. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, council, would someone like to to receive the information that we've brought forward tonight? Resolution brought forward, please?
For what?
Well, it says here, pass the following resolution.
Oh, you're finished
Yeah. Or actually, Mr. Strachan, have you, thank you, Kyle. I appreciate your
Thank
openness
you
and
guys as
frankness.
well. I seriously consider that I have a relationship with many, many people in this room only because of these meetings. So I just want to offer my gratitude for allowing me to continue to come up here and communicate with you guys.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. Mrs. Strachan, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You have more you would like to move through tonight?
Know that this is the component around the fishery was one of the last components within the memo, but that brings us to the end of sort of where we're at to get to the public hearing.
I see.
And then we have a component within that memo of what the process is going from here, because there's been questions from council, and I'm more than happy to carry on if council wishes, or wishes to just read that memo. It's up to council at this point.
So what's your wish, council, just to move ahead now, or, because I think we've had the
I think
public hearing process
Yeah,
done.
I think I'm content with reading the memo. If I have further
Yeah, okay,
questions,
good.
I can go back to
Thank you.
the planner after the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Carlson.
Just one quick, in the list of items that has been received prior to this meeting, I note that the letter we received today is not on that list, and it wasn't mentioned. If we're doing a motion to receive all of that stuff, should this letter be part of that, or
The letter came too late to be included on the agenda.
should we add
But
that
they
as
can
part
add
of
it to
another
the motion of what
Yeah.
they've received, yes.
Yeah.
So you could move it all in one receiving and include that one on it.
Okay. Councillor Peak.
Question, with the discussion this evening, do we need to include a motion for discussions with the developer facilitated by the district between the hatchery and the developer?
I would say not. We will discuss it first thing tomorrow morning to get a plan and be in touch with the fisheries and.
Thank you
and
very kindly.
commissions.
Appreciate it.
Okay, I'll entertain someone to bring forward as written. Councillor Peak.
I will bring the resolution forward as written.
Thank you. Seconder, please. As amended, Councillor Carlson. Thank you.
Yeah. Inclusion of the letter received at
Yeah,
4:39
sorry.
today.
Yeah. Okay. Any further discussion? Councillor Barco, did you have?
Well, I was just wondering for Mr. Strachan, you know, there was some discussion about concerns, there's events that happen with, you know, sloughing, and then there's what you might call a sustained event, where the water is, has there sort of been any sort of projection, if there is sloughing, like how long the water might be affected, and how long a backup water system would have to be, or is that a question that you can then take, that should be part of the next discussion, because there's never been in any of this, like, just how long they expect the water to be impacted if there was an event.
So the Golder report brings the potential impact into two categories, and that's based on the impacts that were looked at. One is impact to the aquifer itself, so impact to below ground to the aquifer. So that would fit within that category of a sustained impact to the aquifer. So that was the major component around vibration, compaction, excavation. What would that do to the aquifer itself, which would be a sustained impact? The other one that was noted within the Golder report that wasn't addressed in the aquifer protection plan was around vibration moving horizontally through the unconsolidated surface materials and causing sloughing into the head of the aquifer, where it comes out of the ground. And it's identified, and as was noted by Freshwater Fisheries, that those events happen right now, but would there be more events that occur as a result of construction? And so those two pieces were outlined. One would be the larger or more higher risk to the aquifer, which is if you had a soil impact that's in the Golder report. The second one is a surface impact that would cause turbidity for a brief time. However, if you're having more brief times, as was noted by the hatchery manager, you may have as big an impact if you're getting those over and over again. So then in the subsequent letter that you received from the applicants, they outlined how they would address that secondary component, being the horizontal vibration, what monitors and what pre-construction testing they would do to ensure that they're not creating more sloughing as a result of the construction.
So there's no risk that the water would never clear up? Even if you blast it or something, it would be murky for 2 days, 3 days, a week, but not forever, or not for a year, or periods like that?
Well, the reporting doesn't go into
Yeah,
that kind of hypotheses, but there is the indication within the reporting on the aquifer from the previous Golder reports that were done for the Ministry of Environment, and then subsequently the recent one, that the aquifer does filter itself. To what extent, I don't believe that's reported in any of the information.
Yeah, I think just further to that, if you look at the rate of movement in the aquifer, it's very slow, so there's potential for its own filtering and so on. And a lot of the data that's been presented talks about attenuation well above any aquifer level. But again, that information's all in the report. Anyway, we have a mover and a seconder. Okay, all in favor? Receiving the reports? Opposed?
I did have a question.
Okay. Okay, carried. Is there anybody opposed? No. Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, moving on to 11.3. Mr. Strachan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So council has brought back a application for non-farm use. So this is an Agricultural Land Commission application that is part of the process, is it has to come to council for asking council to provide a resolution on this application. The recommendation is to support it. The reason it came back to council at the applicant's request, as noted in their letter, is the council actually added a condition to the resolution when it was brought forward that required the consolidation of the property with the adjacent property. And the applicant has outlined some of their concerns with that. So it's brought back to council for further consideration on whether they wish to go forward with the resolution as written, which doesn't conclude a consolidation requirement, or wish to have it go to the Agricultural Land Commission with a consolidation requirement. Again, this is a decision that would be made by the Agricultural Land Commission, and council would be providing a recommendation to them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, any questions of the planner, please? Well, perhaps, should we have a little recess to see whether we're...
Well, she should be back in. We can have a recess after this one.
Okay. Councillor Boot?
I just have a question of, sorry, I just have a question of process. Because this is back for reconsideration, it's like we never talked about it. Is that right?
That's right, it's as if it's coming to the table.
For the first time?
Yeah.
So my question is, because the application went to the Advisory Planning Committee already, does that kind of, by reconsidering it, does that negate that part of the
No, that's
process
just an
as well?
internal process, and they
Okay.
made their recommendation.
So it doesn't have to go back to them?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Peak?
I recognize that as of the correspondence received from Mr. Hague, that I better understand why he is not interested in a consolidation of the property, and in consideration of that, I can see myself supporting the resolution that is before council on the application, which is to be supported and forwarded to the Agricultural Land Commission.
Okay. Any comments, Councillor Carlson? No?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, just a comment on it. I actually do appreciate that this letter came, because I also understand the need for accommodation for folks who are working in agriculture. This one's a bit of a challenge because we're talking about building, or he's talking about building a residence that could essentially then become a home, not building a dorm for these employees. And so for me, that is a bit of a challenge, but at the same time, it would appear that of all of these properties, there isn't a home on it. There isn't a proper home on any of them. And I believe that giving the applicant the benefit of the doubt that this is going to be used as management housing, and it's not going to be just taken and sold as a residential lot. I think that's the concern. I think that's a concern down the road, and it's a true one, but I think we need to support these greenhouse industries and the fact that they are providing employment opportunities as well as higher employment as well for managers and supervisors. They're bringing a great economic boom to our town, and it's really difficult to have enough housing for folks, especially when you only need them for 6 months of the year.
Okay, before we move ahead, any questions of the planner? Because we should have a motion on the table before we get any more discussion going. Any questions of the planner?
Or
Okay.
bring them,
Janet
or,
supported
yeah.
it.
May I bring the motion forward
Yeah,
then?
please.
I'll second it.
Seconder, thank you. Okay, now we can move ahead. I'm sorry, Councillor Carlson, I should have
No,
caught you
that's
before. Councillor Boot.
I understand the housing situation as well, and I don't think that our first resolution was stating that we didn't support this going forward to the Agricultural Land Commission to allow for the housing for the workers. We simply said that we wanted to make sure that that lot was consolidated with the adjacent parcel. And I still feel that way, so I won't be supporting the resolution as it shows.
Councillor Barco.
To Councillor Carlson's point there, when I reviewed the letter from the applicant, I remember reading three different things. One place it was said that they could then sell the lot, another place it was for residents, and another place it was for workers. So I remember clearly thinking, well, what really is going to happen here? But regardless of all that, I still go back to the fact that this is this way because of an earlier concession made. It was a deal. And why go back to the table and just do something that was, a concession made previously. So a deal's being made and we stick to it.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Carlson, anything to add?
Well,
Go ahead.
I would add that unless I see, I would stick to a deal, unless I see some, some significantly changing factors and situations that can happen over time, that I don't see that here.
And I too understand the difficulties, but I have a tough time supporting it unless there's consolidation. So, anyway, okay, we've got a mover and a seconder. Have we finished any more discussion? Okay. We'll consider voting then. All in favor of the motion to support as, without any consolidation, as it is?
Just to support.
Just to support, sorry. Councillor, all in favor of? Okay. Opposed? Okay, the motion's defeated. So, that finishes that for now, right? Yeah, we're done.
Just a question on that, though. Does the former motion, or they bring forward a new motion?
You'd have to bring something else
To bring forward a new motion in order to offer consolidation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm okay with bringing that.
Pardon me?
I'm okay with bringing another motion forward. So the same motion, but with the addendum that it be provided that the lot is consolidated with the adjacent parcel. So really, well, we didn't talk about it before, so that would be
I would second that motion.
Thank you.
Okay. Guess we can move ahead. All in favor? Motion carries this time. Opposed?
I have a question
Yes.
before. Should we check with the applicant if that's what they want?
Nope.
Doesn't matter.
No? Okay.
Not necessary, so
They
two
don't
opposed?
have to proceed with it. It's just you've made the motion that you would support it if.
Otherwise, they can't do anything.
Okay. No, I just,
Yeah, so it goes ahead to the Land Commission as a potential
as
consolidation.
we had voted on
Yeah,
it back in
yeah.
December?
Yeah.
No, just.
Well, as the one that she
Just
meant
now.
tonight,
Yes.
okay. Okay, so then I'll support that then.
Okay,
I
so
didn't
we've got
understand, so now I
one
do.
opposed, was there?
One opposed.
One opposed? Okay. The motion carries. I mean, the motion is denied, that one carries. Okay, now that confused myself enough. 11.4, Mr. Strachan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next item is a development variance permit, and this development variance permit is an application to vary setback in order to allow for a fruit sales from a shipping container. And this is an existing commercial location on the highway frontage. They have approval from Highways in order to have this sales. This is essentially a self-serve place to pick up and purchase fruit. There's an existing concrete pad that's in place there. They're wanting to put a modified shipping container in that location that would allow them to do the sales. It is actually their exterior side yard setback, according to our zoning bylaw, that needs to be varied in order to allow it. The critical piece and what we've been waiting for to bring it forward was, would the Ministry of Highways, which is of course the one that's the greatest impact with this, support it, and they have. As it's an existing access and it's an existing structure, they're not proposing any new concrete or any other component. It's a facility that could be moved, and that license can be revoked by the ministry. So the ministry may at some point in the future decide to do additional works and would revoke that license and have that shipping container removed.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions of the planner?
There's an opportunity for public comment.
Oh, that's correct. Okay, anybody from the public wish to address council? The proponent, I mean, anybody, was the proponent here? No, I guess not. Would anybody from the public like to comment on this? Okay. Okay, council, any questions of the planner?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
just one further comment. We did
Yes.
not receive any correspondence
We didn't.
on this variance.
Okay. Okay, Councillor
I will
Clausen.
move the motion 11.4 development variance permit for lot 16 to be approved.
Okay, thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Peak, thank you. Okay, any further discussion at all? Okay, all in favor? Motion's carried, none opposed. Moving ahead, Mr. Strachan, 11.5.
The second variance on council's agenda this evening is for 4214 Williams Avenue. This is a variance to allow for a secondary or accessory building to be located in the front yard area. This is an unusual lot configuration, and the way our bylaw is written, this becomes the front yard area. So this long panhandle and this entire area becomes part of the front yard area, so they require a variance from council in order to construct their garage. They're unable, of course, to put it in the rear yard area because they're adjacent to the lake shore and have riparian setbacks that would disallow that. So they would have to move the house further forward or connect the garage to the house. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Peak, question?
Through the circulation, have we received any correspondence from neighbors?
I have not.
No, apparently not.
Thank you.
Any other, Councillor Peak?
I'd like to bring the resolution forward that 4214 Williams Avenue to vary the zoning bylaw, section
Mr.
4 point...
Do we want to open it to the public comment?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. We're
Jump the
just as
gun.
bad as each other. Is the proponent here would like to speak to this? Any member of the public like to speak to this?
Yep.
Yes. Go ahead.
Sharon Mansier, 4416 Williams Avenue. Mayor, council, staff. I'm not speaking against this development. I just wanted to explain why you maybe didn't get any correspondence. I only found out about it this morning on my way to work. And so I still am eager to find ways that we can communicate these amendments and variances that are a little bit earlier than the Penticton Herald was able to get it out. I'm just now trying to eyeball the map. This is my first viewing of it. And my big concerns are always going to be impacts to the public use of this area, impacts to the wildlife use of this area. And so I'm looking at it fresh right now, and I see that it's backed onto the back of the long length of the garage is along the pathway, I think. Dean Strachan, is that correct? Where's the walkway?
This is the,
Oh, okay.
on this side.
Sorry, I'm totally turned then.
So just let me go back to your photo. This side is here where the walkway is.
So the entire garage then, if you continue on, is backing onto what's colloquially called the dry creek. So we're adding a lot of building onto that riparian area. That's a dry riparian area for part of the year and flooded for the rest. I know there's been a lot of work in this area. We've gone down and tried to just sort of see what's going on. They had to remove a lot of material to put in crush, I guess, probably to have proper drainage in the future. I am concerned about the proximity to the dry creek. I am just, as I say, seeing this for the first time, I'm uncomfortable that a riparian area has only been promoted through the Herald this morning. So I would encourage council to have a better look at, I know there are official setbacks, but this is the area that we have the flooding in, and I would just hope that that's all being pursued. I don't have the, I just don't have the ability to process it this quickly. Thank you.
Councillor Peak?
Could I ask, because I'm not, I am not clear on the circulation proximity, and I'm not sure if Ms. Mansier is within that circulation area. So perhaps I could ask for some clarification from the planner.
Mr. Strachan?
So the current requirement is for 30 meters. So we send out letters to adjacent property owners within 30 meters of the subject property. So that, unfortunately, that only carries 100 feet around, so there are other people that in the neighborhood who would not receive an official letter from the district.
Right. Thank you. Any other questions of the planner? Councillor Holmes?
Not a question, but I've never felt that 30 meters parameters was sufficient, and it's maybe at some point in the future we could look at that.
Councillor Carlson?
Do we know if the concerns that were just raised regarding flooding and riparian area were considered for the side of this property as opposed to just on the lake side of it? Or is that something that wouldn't necessarily come with an application like this?
The home itself is being constructed under a development permit. So there is a riparian development permit. There's an RP bio report that was completed and identified all of the areas and those concerns. The material brought onto the site was related to bringing the elevation up in order to have the minimum floor elevation above the flood level. This area of the lot where the garage is proposed is lifted up as well, so this has been already modified. And there's a report that can be made available to council if they wish to see it on the riparian areas in and around the property and what mitigation requirements were required. One of the requirements was the installation of snow fencing as well as the retention of a number of trees on site through covenant, and those remain in place.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Booth. And then Councillor Traynor?
I realize, this is after the fact, but my question is, we see both the 15-meter and the 30-meter SPIA lines, SPIA setbacks. I thought that the general guideline was not to develop within 30 meters. Is it only 15 meters?
The actual setback itself is established by the biologist doing the raw report. So there had been already modification on the site, so they established where that line would be. And in this particular case, the SPIA line that you see there has been established in the field through snow fencing. So they actually went out and surveyed that line, had snow fencing placed on that line. And there's additional rehabilitation that's in that report that has to be done in that area beyond that line. But the inside of that line was had allowances for modification for construction of the home. So that has been approved through a raw report to the Ministry of Environment.
So there has been a raw report.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you just said that the 15-meter setback, that's where the snow fence is, where the dotted green line is?
So the 30 meters is when a RAR is triggered. So anytime there's a proposal
15.
for development within 30 meters, there's a requirement that you have a registered professional biologist, or, sorry, not in this case, I've got my terminology wrong. You're required to have a RAR report, so a professional has to undertake that reporting.
Okay.
In that reporting, they identify what the SPIA setback is, what the actual setback is. So the 30-meter line, the line you see in blue is the trigger, isn't necessarily the line.
Okay.
That line is established by a professional. In this case, it's 15 meters. In other cases, it may be at that 30-meter mark. It depends on how much modification's taken place on the site. In this particular case, they've identified 15 meters. And then the biologist required it be marked in the field to ensure that when they're doing construction, they don't enter into that area or cause impact to it.
One other related question. Why were significant modifications already done on the site before the SPIA line was established?
They did get a site prep permit to bring the site up. No, sorry, excuse me. Let me back up there. No, that was not the case. They did do the SPIA reporting. That DP was issued prior to them beginning any modifications of the site. So that's a separate DP that's already been approved. These lines
Okay.
show on the site plan
Okay.
to demonstrate where those lines are in relation to what's being proposed for construction, but they are not related to the development variance permit application before council. That development permit for construction of the home has already been approved.
Okay. I'll talk to you some other time about this. Yeah, because I'm not being clear. I'm not getting the answer I'm looking for. So I'll talk to you outside of this, because it has nothing to do with the development variance permit that's before us tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Trainer,
I just wanted some clarification quickly.
could you put your mic close, please?
The variance for this would that have been included in the environmental report?
So this garage building is outside of the 30-meter area and outside of where they've established. So this portion of the property doesn't fall within the report requirements. So there isn't any requirements for plantings or protection in the area that this is proposed to build.
Okay.
However, the house is, so that's why it was part of the development permit.
Okay. And even though the proposed building backs onto an environmentally sensitive spot, you're saying it's still within that 30-meter?
It backs onto a natural area, however, it's not identified as part of the riparian area.
Okay.
There's a natural area that's beyond the property line there
Okay.
that it backs onto, but it's not, the recognized riparian area
Yeah.
is identified by the blue demarkers.
Okay, I see that.
There is a natural area definitely in here, however, it doesn't fall under the provincial criteria as identified by the professional in the field as to where those lines are located.
Okay. And I just have a quick comment about letting neighbors know about things like this. Some of the lots down in Trout Creek are quite large, so I don't know if the 30 meters would reach the neighbors on either side, but that's just a comment.
That can easily happen. Councillor Peak, then Councillor Barkville.
Yes, thank you very much. Dean, might I clarify then, this is here because it was triggered because of the secondary building and the adjacent, and the differences between the
Front and
setback
back.
on the side? I mean, in other words, the house would not necessarily have triggered this?
No, the house doesn't trigger the variance. The variance is related to the fact that actually the front yard for this property is this little tiny piece up here.
Oh,
So
yes,
according
it-
to our bylaw, that's the front yard. So that's the frontage.
I'm sorry,
So
thank you
you're-
very much, I
yeah.
take that, I understand.
Okay.
It's my brain.
Okay, Councillor Barkville.
Yeah, just out of an abundance of caution, I'd like to ask the CAO, since I was the one who subdivided this property and commissioned the surveying, the raw report and everything like that, I'm not in any conflict of interest once it's sold to be voting on an issue like this?
What was that again?
I was the one who
Used to be
subdivided
his.
this property. I'm intimately familiar with all the things I paid,
But you have nothing to gain from, no.
no financial concern once it's sold,
I would
so.
suggest that you
Yeah.
would be okay to come to the conclusion that you're not.
Okay. Just to check.
Okay. Moving ahead,
I will bring it forward.
okay, thank you. Seconder, please, Councillor Booth. Any further discussion? Okay, Councillor Barkville.
Just a comment that this was the first property subdivision in Summerland where they put covenants on trees, so I went down and had a look and yesterday, and I can safely say that all the trees, are still there. There was like 25 trees or something that had to be protected.
Good. Councillor Carlson.
Just, yeah, I'm looking at a Google map of this, and I have to wonder if maybe we should be heeding the words of Ms. Mancier, because you look at where there's this triangle of trees right along that property line, and that triangle of trees looks kind of like it's the same trees that are across the creek and heading towards the Woodbridge property, which we've determined has great value to species at risk. And so I don't know, I mean, if we're sure that that's not part of the riparian area and then there's no concerns with building right there, then I guess it doesn't really matter, but I do wonder if it's worth finding out a little bit more.
I think Mr. Strachan would, the biologist and so on have,
The biologist conducted the assessments, and those trees have been removed.
Oh, they're not there anymore?
No.
Okay,
It's an old picture.
that's too bad.
So that the development permit area defined what needed to be protected, as did the covenant that Councillor Barkwall has noted, identified certain trees to be retained on the site. The rest of the material was removed in order to bring in the base material to lift the house up to get it above flood mark.
Thank you.
okay, did we have a mover and seconder here? Okay. All in favor? Okay, motion carries, and none opposed, thank you. Moving 11.6, Mr. Strachan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is our third variance on this agenda for council today. This is a variance for some retaining walls, as well as a regulation we have in our bylaw that requires you to be set back 6 meters from a private driveway that's shared with other property owners. So if you have a common driveway that carries along, you have to be set back 6 meters to your garage door. In this particular case, there's an access that comes down one side of the property, and as this regulation applies, they must be 6 meters away from that easement. So this is a private easement, private driveway, but our bylaw regulates you must be set back 6 meters. So in this case, because of the lot configuration, as well as the topography on the site, they're having difficulties meeting that criteria. It would push the house a further 3 meters, and there's not any room on the other side, so it would shrink the home. The second component is related to retaining walls. This easement has limited provision, so they have to ensure that this access is protected. They can't have structures on here that obstruct the access because it's access for adjacent properties. So they need to build the walls a little higher in order to make them shorter. So they've asked for a variance to go from 1.2 meters up to 1.9 meters. And as you can see from the retaining walls, as well as the covenants and easements that zigzag across the property, there's definitely some limitations on the site. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the planner, please? Oh, pardon me, we'll move back. Is the proponent here to speak to this? We'll finally get it right after 3.
I can answer questions if there are any, otherwise I'm...
Okay, we'll wait just a shake. So the proponent's not here?
He is.
Oh,
He's just
are you
off
the
that way.
proponent? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were saying you're a member of the public. Go ahead and stand up and...
He doesn't
He doesn't have anything to say.
No, nothing, no comments? Okay,
I was just saying I can answer questions if there are any.
okay, thank you. Any member of the public here would like to speak to this? Okay, council...
Mr. Mayor, we did not receive any correspondence on this
Okay.
application.
Thank you. Someone like to bring a motion forward then, please? Councillor Trainer.
I will bring forward the resolution as stated to be approved.
Seconder, please, Councillor Peak. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Motion carries, none opposed, thank you very much. Okay, 12.1, staff reports. Who's moving ahead with this?
Chief Noble will speak to this one on an application.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have the opportunity to apply for provincial funding through the UBCM for some emergency management training of municipal staff. The budget is $10,575. That will be 100% funded if successful in obtaining the grant. And we're recommending that council supports the recommendation and that directs staff to apply for this grant.
Thank you. Any questions of the fire chief? Councillor Peak.
I don't know actually whether the fire chief will answer this or whether it might come otherwise. Municipal staff, is it other than just fire department, or will it be other municipal staff?
It will be other municipal staff.
It will be so this is
Mostly
actually,
other.
Glenn Hand was on emergency preparedness, but it became very clear during the last emergency events that our staff, our finance staff, our development service staff, our work staff didn't have enough training in the operations. It's one of those things that get pushed to the side when you're not going through emergencies, so we just need to get some of our other staff trained.
Thank you. I think integrated training is a great thing.
Any other questions?
I'll bring the application
Thank you.
forward.
I'll second.
Seconder. Any further discussion? Certainly sounds like a good idea and a good time to do it.
Yeah, sorry, that's just my comment. You know, judging from what we saw last year and judging from what the RDOS experienced last year, I think that the more we can be prepared for emergencies, the better.
Yeah, I think you're very good plan.
Yeah,
Okay,
good timing.
all in favor? Opposed? None? Carried. Thank you.
12.2,
Loaded
Mr.
person.
Johnson will speak to 12.2.
So our request for proposal for a new loader closed earlier this year on January 4th. 5 proposals were received, and staff reviewed this based on the evaluation criteria that was laid out in the RFP. Finning Canada was selected as the preferred proponent, and staff recommend proceeding with the purchase of a new Caterpillar 924K loader with attachments from Finning in the amount of approximately $225,000, which is less than the budgeted amount of $230,000. So as per the purchasing authority policy, council approval is required for all RFP awards that exceed the total value of $100,000. And with us tonight, Martin Stam, our manager of works, is here if there are any questions on this.
And just to note, it was part of the expected, it is in the financial plan to purchase.
Thank you. Any questions, Councillor Peak of Mr. Stan?
A question in terms of evaluation for trade-in purposes. How is that performed?
For the trade-in?
Evaluation for trade-in.
We haven't included the trade-in in the request for proposal. Now that we have a successful, or that we've decided who the successful proponent should be, we can start negotiating with him on the trade-in.
Okay, gotcha. Interesting.
I'm very pleased to see this come forward.
Anybody else? Okay, someone like to bring that forward, please? Councillor Peak?
That the Finning Canada be identified as the preferred proponent for the purchase of a 3-yard loader, attachable broom, and high dump bucket, and staff be authorized to finalize the negotiation and execute the agreement.
Seconder, please. Councillor Trainer, thank you. Any further discussion on that? Sounds like it's overdue. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? None? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin.
Okay, 12.3.
12.3, Ms. Rothery will speak
Okay.
to this one briefly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick update on the results of the recycling competition that we entered with the town of Smithers and Port Hardy. While we were not the first place from the competition, we were successful in reducing contamination in the recycling by 1/3 during the competition period between July and October. And we're quite pleased with that and are going to be following up with the community to get some more information about what steps the community took and that they feel that we took that was helpful to them so that we can continue to build on this momentum into the future.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Peak.
Would there be things that we could learn from Smithers that might have been different than we did in the education process or whatever?
As part of our agreement to enter the competition, one of the stipulations was that all of the communities would share their process and that would be reported back to all of the communities who participated.
Thank you.
Councillor Holmes.
I would just note that these competitions aren't necessarily fair. I mean, Smithers could have had a lot more contamination to begin with, and which makes the amount they needed to reduce a lot easier. So it's depends. It only works if everybody's at the exact same starting point, right?
Slippery idea. Yeah.
No, it's true.
It was just a friendly competition.
We need an investigator up there. Okay, would someone like to bring that forward, please, to receive? Councillor Carlson?
I'll move that we receive the information.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Boot. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 12.4.
So I think we'll have Laurie Mullen, our Recreation Manager, start this one out for discussion.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. The purpose of this council report is to obtain council support of the application to the Local Government Infrastructure Planning Grant Program. Staff have identified that there is a need for a facility condition assessment at the Summerland Aquatic Center. The consultants currently developing the Summerland Parks and Rec Master Plan have also identified that this is a recommendation in their draft plan. At 42 years of age, the facility is nearing the end of its serviceable life, and the building is experiencing many challenges. A facility condition assessment would include engaging a consulting team of professionals to conduct a detailed facility audit of the entire building, its structure and plant, including compliance with municipal and provincial code requirements. This information is integral for decision-making on further investment into the building versus other options. Should this application be successful, the district would receive $10,000 towards the project. At this time, staff is asking for support to the application.
And just a note, I think, just so council is aware, the timing is very good, as Laurie mentioned. The Parks and Recreation Master Plan will soon be released, and our asset management project, which is a higher level of the condition assessment, so this is the natural next step.
Good. Any questions,
Doug.
Councillor Holmes?
So would this assessment basically tell us if there's an opportunity to extend the life of the pool, and if so, how much longer we could get out of it, or would it tell us like the end date and that we'd need to work to? I mean, what kind of information would we get from this assessment?
My understanding is the assessment would provide the information of both those things that you've identified. So how much life is left, how much money it would take to maintain it for that life, and then we could make some decisions on.
If there are any opportunity, if there's something interim, like it might, with the Recreation Master Plan, may determine that we're going to have to start planning for a new facility in the next 5 years, but in the meantime, you need to still operate ours, so it would tell you what the component cost would be. It certainly makes it better if we're applying for assistance in any of those repairs, having that plan. So it is both.
Councillor Booth.
Thank you. I'm not sure if this is for Laurie or if it's for you, Linda. The $40,000 above and beyond the $10,000 grant, we're looking for that in the 2018 budget?
The
Yes.
intention
Yes.
was to bring
Yes.
that forward as part of the budget deliberations for the 2018 financial plan.
Okay, thank you.
And there's potentially other funding sources that we were going to look at for that?
There is another grant opportunity.
Right, so it just has to come forward at the next
Another
meeting.
time. Yes, thank you.
Okay, would someone like to bring it forward? Councillor Peak.
I'll bring that forward as stated.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Carlson, thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Trainer.
Sorry, can I just clarify something quickly? So the estimated cost to implement the facility condition assessment is 50,000,
That's correct.
but to conduct the actual study is 10,000.
No.
Is that right? Oh.
Conduct it is the same thing. To implement it and conduct it, we're using the same
Oh,
word. So
okay.
$50,000 to do the study.
Oh, okay. 10,000 from the grant. Okay, that seems like a lot for a study, but I don't know how much studies cost, so.
They cost. Cheap. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. 12.5,
So-
Bike BC.
So 12.5 is Bike BC, and Laurie's going to speak a little bit about this one too. But just to know that this one was a difficult one. Staff spent a lot of time looking at what the possibilities might be. So just quickly run, Laurie, through what we're looking at here.
Yeah, we're looking for direction on moving forward with the 2018-2019 Bike BC program. We did do a call out to Bike BC to get a little bit more background and information on what project might have the most success for being granted. The first priority that they identified was a regional project, And our understanding with the Lakeshore Trail Phase 2 feasibility study, that project hasn't been finalized yet. It's not shelf-ready, so it wouldn't be applicable for this program, but regional was their #1 priority. Another priority they identified was creating a cycling network plan. This is new for the project this year, so they would be looking to invest in a few communities to develop a cycling network plan. We did ask them about a few upgrades to roads and connectivity within parts of the community, and they identified that those projects would likely rate lower. So our recommendation after talking to Bike BC was to look at applying for a cycling network plan for Summerland.
Thank you. Councillor Peak.
Yes, could you, I don't really understand what the cycling network plan is. Could you tell me what it is?
Well, it's just the network of your connectivity for all your trails together. So it's a map, it's a mapping out what trails are where and how you can get to point A to point B using the cycling network.
And once there's a plan in place, you have a better
Yeah.
chance of applying and receiving grants because you have a plan in place on where you want to develop future cycling networks.
It's groundwork towards other opportunities.
A good example for council is one of the Bike BC applications that we asked for was the bike, cycling, and walking trail that we did at Dale Meadows, and it's been problematic because it didn't come as part of a bigger plan, and so that was we were highly encouraged not to sort of pick a sector of road if you can't really show where it's going. And so far with this government, we haven't had any traction on the regional initiative of Lakeshore Pathway, so that's why it was left off of here. There has been no further discussions yet.
Thank you. If I may, I appreciate the staff having discussion with the province because they're probably still in the process of deciding how they will support. So to be able to work together is important as well.
Councillor Carlson?
Just a note that if I Google RDOS cycling network, a lot of this already exists. I'm wondering if this would build upon what's currently been mapped and exists as a trail network already out there, or if we're starting again.
No, it absolutely would tie into the work that RDOS has done. Some of it are within the district. It's a little bit more commuter-oriented, a little bit more district-specific, but it would tie in, and the work that would be done would absolutely involve Mr. Woods and the work that they've done there.
Is it possible then that once it's completed, ours could be integrated into their map, or we could make sure that it's easily accessible? Because it's kind of cool. I haven't seen it before, but now that I'm looking, I think that it...
Yes, he has actually told us before that we could be working with him to add into the map. There are some initiatives on the integrated mapping already.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Holmes?
So the plan would map the existing trails that are there and also envision how you connect how everything's going to connect it, so there'll be future trails, right? So you'll have, Giants Head Road where it just stops, and then it'll envision where that trail might actually go if it's future funding's in place, right?
That is correct, within the boundaries of Summerland.
Yeah.
Okay, council, someone like to bring something forward, please?
Yeah.
Did we already bring?
Did you bring it forward?
We were in second?
Yes, I did.
You did, okay. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Yeah, we discussed things long enough, I forget what we did there. Okay, moving ahead, 12.6, Friends of the Summerland Research Card.
I believe Angelique, who's, sorry.
I'll take this one.
Oh, sorry, Jeremy. Mr. Deniger.
So, as council did a couple of years ago now, a similar request, the Friends of the Summerland Research Station Gardens Society is applying for a grant through the OBWB for their water conservation and quality improvement program. And part of the application requirements is to have a resolution from the local government in support of it. I do believe that Bonnie Fulton and Catherine McCourt from the executive of the society are in the audience if there's any questions from council.
Okay, thank you. So, any questions? Councillor Peak?
I'll bring it forward as read.
thank you. Seconder, please. Counselor Trainer, thank you. Question? Go
Just
ahead.
one question. Is the only support, maybe this is for the women back there, is the only support that's required is simply a resolution, or is there a letter? Yeah? Just a resolution?
A resolution. It'd be a letter.
That's included in a letter that shows our support. Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Thanks, Counselor Peak. Okay, 12.7, Mr. Daniger, I believe.
Yeah, so this is an update on the petitions. This is for council to receive the latest 5 pages that were presented at the previous council meeting.
Okay, thank you.
I will move the resolution as presented.
Okay, thank you. Seconder, please. Counselor Booth, thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. 12.8.
Not too much to say on this one, but Angelique can speak to it briefly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is just a quick report to let you know that the RFP process closed in December, and we had really good applications, and a proponent has been chosen, and the recommendation is here.
Okay, sounds good. Counselor Peak?
Question, when does this actually commence then?
Just working on finishing up the contract documents, and hopefully we can get that done by this week.
Wonderful, thank you very much.
CAO?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Anybody else? Counselor
I'll
Carlson?
move the
Good, thank you.
12.8 as presented.
Okay, seconder, please. Counselor Peak, thank you. All in favor? Or discussion?
Sorry, just to follow up on Councillor Peak's question there, but do we have, will timelines be in the, are they in the?
There will be
contract? Do we have-
timelines in the contract documents, yeah.
So we'll know in due course what those timelines are?
Yeah, I mean, they probably are in the RFP.
It's a 3-month turnaround, and we had originally stated January, February, March, but we're a bit into January, so it'll be February, March, April.
Okay.
But it is expected that it'll be timely now, because now we have all the ducks in a row and we need to get moving.
Okay.
Just quick comment, I think a lot of people are really happy about this and are looking forward to it.
That's a great deal. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried, thank you. Any new business, Mr. Denninger?
No.
No.
Okay, 14.1.
14.1 is just a consideration for adoption for Stoner Street.
Counselor
I'll
Carlson?
move zoning bylaw amendment 523 Stoner Street, bylaw 2017-036 be adopted.
Seconder, please. Counselor Booth, thank you. This is for adoption. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Wow. Okay, council reports. Please keep in mind where we are, time-wise. Starting with Counselor Trainer.
Try to keep mine short. As a council liaison, I attended the Rec Commission meeting last Thursday, and we discussed the draft Giants Head Mountain Trail redevelopment plan and provided our feedback, which Lori forwarded to the consultants. Over the next 2 weeks, the commission members will be reviewing the draft, and at this time still confidential, Parks and Rec plan. We're going to be meeting next Thursday to give our feedback on that, and following that, the commission's steering committee for the rec plan will finalize the commission's comments, and then Lori will forward those to the consultants. And the members really have a wealth of knowledge and experience, and I think that their input will be very valuable. And finally, last Thursday, Lori also updated the commission on current projects as well as proposed projects for 2018 after they've been finalized in the budget. And moving forward, the commission may be tasked with helping to develop a booking policy for district-owned courts, as well as review fees and charges for parks and recreation services.
Thank you.
And that's it.
Counselor Barkle.
I've attended the Museum Society meeting, and they're making preparations for their AGM. I would note that they've developed a pretty good volunteer training program now and have a volunteer coordinator, so if anybody's interested in historical things, the Museum Society is always looking for people, and that You've probably seen something in the paper. There's some people that feel passionately about the old gas pump, and so they've donated their own funds to have it restored, and at some point it will be either in the museum or somewhere else in the community. That's kind of a nice looking pump, and they felt that they would personally make the donations to have it done.
Good. Councillor Booth.
Just a couple of things. The Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction they're holding a number of community meetings throughout BC. Last Friday, I attended the closest one to us here, which was in Kelowna. And needless to say, the number one issue in the poverty reduction strategy is housing, for like across the board, transitional right through to home ownership. And just one other thing, I am really looking forward to getting back to work with the Water Advisory Committee, which is going to be later in February. Thank you.
Councillor Carlson.
Wow, I also have one. We had a Climate Action Committee meeting, lots of discussion about recycling and reducing contamination and some of the frustration people have had, but also some of the educational opportunities that may or may not have been presented before. And I believe a survey is being developed for the community to try and get some feedback on what recycling works and what doesn't, and what people know and what people don't know, because it can be confusing. And there's also another initiative being undertaken to talk about reducing energy consumption in homes and trying to figure out how to encourage and to support those, especially when it becomes quite expensive. Find out who might need that extra push or that extra help to figure out how to reduce their bills and also reduce their greenhouse gas emissions, because that's a big part of what the Climate Action Committee is all about. So they're really enthusiastic, and it's really nice to have someone coordinating to help make these projects move forward. I think it's been very worthwhile, and that frustration at the beginning of our term where nothing was going on and has completely turned around to now there's all these really great initiatives. So I think that was a really good move.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes.
Last week I attended the Rec Commission meeting as well. I think Councillor Traynor covered that very well. Also covered I attended the Cultural Development Committee, where it was the committee's second meeting, and we covered the cultural plan from beginning to end. Pretty much took out the whole meeting, and that was very positive. And also the Chamber's Affordable Housing Task Force met, and we finalized planning for the public meeting on January 3rd on affordable housing at the library, or January 30th.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Peak.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I attended an Arts and Council board meeting, and they're looking for a new board member. So if anyone in the audience or listening public is interested in being a board member, they're always interested in new ideas and people with different talents. So please put your name forward. Subsequently, there was a meeting that I attended with staff and the Arts Executive, and it was discussion around working cooperatively with the $250,000 received regarding the renovations, and there was discussion on how to manage the finances. It was a good meeting, and I think it was an important discussion. Chamber and Council also met with discussions on the Festival of Lights event, and I think that was also a good opportunity for both the directorates to speak together. The business after business, Cherry Tree Quilts, is something that the business community looks forward to. It was the first of the year. The Philosopher's Cafe, which we spoke about in terms of possible funding, had a very good turnout, close to 50 people. Excellent discussion. I attended the Heritage Commission meeting, and they continue forward with their discussions.
Great. Thank you very much, Council. Okay, we've got a bit of a decision to make. How many people would like
Why
to...
don't you just do it till 10?
Okay, well, we'll go to 10 and make that,
And
okay.
then just
Move
write it
ahead.
down.
Okay. There's an opportunity for the public to speak to any issue that they wish to. Go ahead, please. Ms. Mansur.
I'll be quick and I'll be loud because Mike's not here. Sharon Mansur, 4416 Williams Avenue. Just very quickly, Council, talking to Fisheries, I don't know the name of the gentleman that was here. I think my fisheries group is tasked with taking care of fish, and I don't think they should be beating down your door to come and help you solve this development problem. I think, unfortunately, that falls to the developer and to my council. So I think that we should probably look at that a bit differently. I think he felt pretty much on the spot here, and I think that I task you guys with having to approach him. His job is to take care of fish, and developers suck time like nothing, and I think that's going to be a challenge for his work if we let that go as long as it could. So a liaison is important. I wonder also if I can ask a question. I wasn't within the 100 feet, and I'm 2 properties over. The development property that I was talking about on Williams, would the provincial park have been notified is my question. I don't know if you can answer that, but that, of course, is exactly adjacent. That is the quote-unquote dry creek that wasn't identified on the map as a dry creek I saw. So dry creek means that it's ephemeral, means that it is a creek, but it is ephemeral, and when it's not a creek, it's where the red-listed spadefoot toad is. So I'm very interested in having, I know it's late in the game, it's when I found out about it, but I knew there was work going on to prep the site. I'm not against development, but I am very much thinking that we should look forward to these things, look forward to following up on these things if we can. So I'll leave that with you.
Thank you. Next.
Mary Ann McDonald, McDonald Place. This is a question I have for the mayor or council or Mr. Strachan, whoever. I was just wanting some clarification around the suggestion by the mayor this evening about the deep water intake for the hatchery. You had suggested that the hatchery was not opposed to it, or they suggested they weren't opposed to it. But my question is, will that involve one of Summerland's water licenses to accommodate that? Should that be one of the considerations?
More than likely. Mr. Strachan, any comment? We'll keep it brief here.
Yeah.
I don't think we can actually answer that question right now. They have the opportunity to apply for their own license. If it was brought forward, council would have to determine whether or not you were actually willing to give one out, but I don't think we could answer it right now.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Robson.
Mayor and Council, Orv Robson, 678 McDonald Place.
You pull that mic up a little bit, Orv, I can't hear you.
I'd just like to ask someone, almost 2 years ago, it was purported that this was going to be the Bristol Banks Crescent development was going to be a aging in place seniors development. And is that still the case?
As far as we know, yes. Yes.
It
Yes.
is a seniors development?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In fact, the percentages that were talked about switched around, so it's 60% related to, 60% of the units were related to care, 40% for condos. Anyway, thank you.
For seniors?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because that's 1/3 or 1/13 roughly of the population of Summerland. 1/13 of the population of Summerland is going to be in that bowl. So when you're looking at it all being seniors, that's a considerable amount of people.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Jill Patton, I live on Latimer. I really can't fathom what's happening, and I don't know whether I'm thick or what, but if you have been advocating for 18 months that you're going to only approve this with the okay of the fisheries, and you don't have that, how can you possibly vote at a public meeting? I don't get it. Am I missing something, or am I just thick? Anybody? What happens if they don't? If they've got, what, a week and a half? They haven't been able to resolve it in 18 months. You're giving them a week and a half before the public meeting. What if it isn't resolved? Are you still going to vote on it? How can you if everything isn't resolved?
We'll see what happens with the discussions that we talked about this evening.
So would you cancel the meeting at that point?
We'll have to wait and see, ma'am.
I think the taxpayers deserve clarification regarding the Golder report. as it was commissioned through public funding to ensure all interests were considered, not just the developers, why then did Golder only receive documents prepared by Lark or their consultants? It seems that trout hatcheries' concerns and related correspondence were not even included. If we were already concerned about reports being totally one-sided, and the sole purpose of submitting facts to Golder was to obtain an unbiased view, how then does this not defy all logic? Why wasn't all the hatcheries paraphernalia included as being sent to the Golder report? I guess I'm questioning you about that.
As was stated to the hatchery, we did receive their letters. The questions that they had were
Yes, their
submitted.
concerns, yes.
Yes, their concerns. There was also public concerns as well that were expressed in a number of letters.
And that
as
all
well
went
as-
to Golder.
No, finished. We also had council concerns that we brought forward. So we did our best to consolidate all of that into the terms of reference. And if you do go through the terms of reference and reference back to freshwater fisheries, the questions they asked related to the Aquifer Protection Plan were asked of Golder and Associates in their review. It is a professional review, so there's criteria that those professionals as engineers have to undertake, so it's a peer review. So they are required to review the material that's prepared by those professionals. So they're required to review the materials prepared by PITO and required to review the materials prepared by Rockland as the two.
And those are both from Lark Group, aren't they?
Those are the two professionals that prepared the reports and they're required to review.
That's exactly what I...
Now you need to do a...
Okay, now,
Motion, if there's
council,
anyone
I'll
else.
need a motion if we're going to continue, please. Motion to extend the meeting, please. Councillor Barkwell? Councillor Boot, I'm sorry. All in favor? Carried, thank
What?
you.
No, hang on a second. You have to
Yeah,
ask for
as long as
opposed.
we're out of here
Okay,
next 5
opposed.
minutes, I
Opposed?
really need to go.
Okay, sorry.
But you
Okay.
need anonymous to continue, so I'll.
You need unanimous to continue, okay.
It has to be.
I think I'm lucky last tonight. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My first question is, how many people can you fit in the arena banquet room versus the center stage or the high school gymnasium?
The arena banquet room was available. We were having difficulty getting center stage, and the capacity isn't significantly different, so, we just couldn't get it. We couldn't get it for either, we couldn't get the gym or the center stage.
Okay. My next, it's just a little point, but I would like to make a slight correction on something that Councillor Holmes brought up the other week about the bus route going up Solly, the school bus route.
Okay, yeah.
It actually goes up Peach Orchard to Northern Latimer. It stops at the intersection of Latimer, Cuthbert, and Austin, which is basically a miscued four-way intersection, but that's actually a children's bus stop, which is very dangerous. And then it proceeds up Solly to the highway. So I just want to point that out.
Thank you.
At a recent council meeting, council turned down the 22 single-family houses on Nixon and Britain roads because it was considered too dense for the surrounding area of Trout Creek, and the suggestion was to cut it back to 18, but I understand now it's 21. I'm wondering, why is that same consideration not given to Banks Crescent as for it being too dense for the area?
Thank you.
Do I get an answer?
Well, it's a comprehensive development zone. Carry on. Mr. Strackman, would you like to respond?
There's not really, there's nothing, it's not a response.
Okay. We can't provide a response. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. We're done.
Not quite. Your watch is very fast, Mr. Waterman.
Okay, carry on then.
Do we have the cross-section map yet? That's my final question, but I'd like to know. Has anyone seen a cross-section map of this entire development?
In terms of the ground level?
The entire thing, the 7 or 8 stories
All
of
those
the
maps are
different
available.
buildings, the 3
All the
layers
maps are
of
available down
underground, and
front
where
counter.
the aquifer is supposedly.
All the maps are available down on the front counter.
No, on one plan, a cross-section. Cross-section.
Cross-sections are available on the front counter. I've got them down below. You can
Of
come
the
by City
entire
Hall.
thing?
We did them as free, full-size drawings, as was requested by a member of the public at the last meeting.
Okay, so they did arrive.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. In fact, they were there a day or two later.
The next
if I remember correctly, yeah.
Thank you. I haven't seen them in the last 18 months.
They weren't available. Any other member of the public? Okay, thank you. And the press?
Will, the CAO made reference to this, but will you, or will someone else from the staff, be facilitating the meeting between the hatchery and the development? Or how will this go about?
Yeah, I will meet with Mr. Strachan tomorrow morning, and we will discuss the approach. We'll contact Mr. Gergen and discuss the approach on who can, would be best to facilitate and make sure that meeting happens quickly. So, yes.
Okay, so you're going to try to get them together, is that, that's the basic idea?
Yeah.
And have some discussion together, yes.
Thank you.
Anything else? John? Okay. Okay, Council, got a motion for adjournment, please. Councillor Boot, Councillor Carlson, thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.